It is February 2nd, 2021. It's a Tuesday. It's the Giant Bombcast. I am Brad Shoemaker, joined by Jeff Gersman, Jason A. Stryker, special guest, no clips, Danny O'Dwyer, back with us again.
Howdy.
And Jan Ochoa.
I thought I was a special guest for a second, and I got really excited.
You are a very special and fortunate guest today. I just want to say I am very glad that you are with us, hearty and hale, and everything's okay.
Last week, a fever tried to get me. This week, a tree tried to get me.
We just saw that tweet going around, like, what was it, an hour and a half ago?
Yeah, just about an hour and a half ago.
That thing was demolished.
Yeah. I was just out getting a morning walk with a dog, and then I had the hood up because it's a little cold. I try not to walk my dog with headphones on because you want spatial awareness and stuff. But man, I started hearing a creak, and then I look behind me. Thankfully, the dog and I were a safe distance away, and then the tree just pancakes a car.
The look on Jason's face tells me that he is just seeing this tweet for the first time.
I'm just seeing this now.
It wasn't your car.
Oh my God, is that your truck or
no?
So that was, I know this was not intentional on your part, but it was not clear from the tweet whether it was your truck or not, and I think most people assumed that it was.
Yeah. Thankfully, it was not my truck. I was telling Danny before everything started, I was talking to my partner about like, you know what? I kind of want to get a truck just like that one. I'm going to take that as a
really well.
I'm going to take it as a sign of the
available at a discount now. So
yeah.
There might be a sniff in the universe to not get a truck, I would have thought.
Yeah. I mean, it held up better than I thought it would for a whole tree. My partner and I, we walked around the other side, and it fell from the very bottom. Like the bottom just was loose from the soil, fell over, smacked a truck. And man, of course, as soon as everyone figured out what was happening, everyone runs outside the house. Everyone's looking outside their windows. I'm looking around dumbstruck with my dog, and I noticed no one is calling police or proper tree handling authorities.
A tree on the loose. You got to get down here.
Yep.
I'm just looking around. It's like no one's going to call this
early, motherfucker.
Who do you call? Do you call 911 and ask for the tree police, or?
I called the non-emergency line because thankfully no one was hurt, minus the truck. And I just tell them what's going down. And I told him, hey, you're probably getting a bunch of calls right now about what's happening. I'm at this park over here. And then the lady just goes, oh, yeah, no one's called in about this. This is the first call in the morning, huh? And I'm still looking around, and everyone is just taking videos and pictures of this. And I'm thinking, God, this is the dystopian society we live in where...
Yeah, right.
How could you not?
Did the owners come out? Did you get genuine owner reaction? Did you see them?
And of course, it had to be the nice neighbor's car. Whose truck it was. And then I just guided them through of hey, you get the city to pay for this because the city will pay for this because it's their fault.
That's rough. Have you guys been getting some of those crazy winds down there?
Oh yeah. Daly City. It's just fog, rain. It doesn't help that the park is at a pretty steep incline that everything just looks like it's constantly tilting already. That the rain and the wind probably hasn't helped anything with the trees. Oh boy. Fun stuff.
Still got a little bit of adrenaline going.
Oh yeah. The dog was super confused because she was like, I just peed there. What happened?
Oh, so you wait. Now wait. You say you caused this to fall? That's what I'm hearing.
Is that sighting in a target or something? Is that calling in an airstrike?
And
she marked the truck and the airstrike came.
I'm not going to say, I'm running a side hustle of insurance schemes, but if you have trees near your car,
better pay up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or if you could put your car near a tree. I know a dog.
I know a dog who's apparently its urine is acidic.
This dog is in high demand.
Special tree victims unit is gonna fucking suss this out. Kick down your door, middle of this podcast.
Oh no. That's what I get for letting my dog have cold water instead of normal water.
Yeah.
Spoiling her.
Let this be a lesson to you. Anybody else have any other near-death experiences this week?
Not yet, but I'm ready to line one up.
What is this?
See,
What is that?
I got some of this Coca-Cola with coffee.
What?
It came out with. Remember Coke Black?
Yeah, I was going to ask, is that just Coke Black?
I hope so. I don't know. Coke Black was weird and kind of terrible,
Black?
but that didn't stop me from drinking it. It was a Coke with coffee that they made years ago.
Okay.
And then
Did
stopped.
they call regular
and-
Coke brown then from then on?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
What kind of carb count are we talking about here?
Carb count? It is 18 grams.
Oh boy. Okay.
70
Jewish
calories
roots
per
in that
can. Yeah, I see this. I feel like already out of the gate, like if you are making a like thing where you're like it's coffee or it's energy, it's caffeine, and you don't have to write how much caffeine is in it, there ain't enough in it.
Okay, sure.
But
Like if you're
That's
not
not
legally
necessarily-
mandated.
Typically.
Yeah, what's
right,
the-
yes,
Okay. You
The
cross
the
the
max
law
threshold.
isn't stepping in to say fucking. Well, wait. Oh, does this not say? No. Okay. If this says 300 fucking milligrams. This
What?
300 milligrams, motherfucker.
What?
I thought you couldn't
Watch your
do
back.
that. I thought Jolt Cola
That's a
told you
lot.
that like 70 was the legal limit. Have I been?
Well, that was the 80s, man. We've come a long way since then.
Jeff, that's a lot of caffeine.
Jolt is your dad's caffeinated soda.
Please be careful.
Not enough. 300 milligrams is like that's a baseline. But that's actually I drink that in the morning, and that's actually usually pretty much all the caffeine I have all day. So, except for today when I have this now coffee thing. So I don't know. I got some of these, and I figured I would try them.
Is
It
it
says
sugared?
dark blend on it. Yes,
It's not
it is.
diet,
Well,
right? It's actual.
it's not diet. It has 70 calories
Not
in the
diet.
can.
Okay.
So it smells a little. It smells more like coffee than Coke.
Okay. That's not bad.
Oh, that's not bad. I don't know. It tastes like coffee. It tastes like coffee, but it's like carbonated.
Like a sip.
It's not bad. That's like a Coke with some coffee. It is smoother than Coke Black was. I remember Coke Black being like having a
little bitter.
harsher edge to it, which was like fun in its own way. But
Is it?
the other thing is drinking any Coke that has sugar in it, a non-diet Coke, immediately makes my teeth feel like it is covered in some kind of disgusting film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got that grind. Got that
Yeah.
grindy feeling in your teeth. Yes.
Yeah.
Is it Coke and then coffee, or is it coffee and then Coke?
It is Coca-Cola with coffee.
No. I
is
mean,
the,
like
the
the
branding on
finish.
it. Oh,
the mouthfeel and the finish on the back end. The aftertaste.
I'm going to say it's coffee and then Coke.
Okay.
Or almost like the coffee flavor is replacing some aspects of the cola flavor.
Ooh.
Okay.
So it's like it's weirdly identifiable as a Coke from the mouthfeel to the just
Bubbles.
general sense of it. But at some point they said, no, we found a way to replace this third of the flavor profile with a coffee flavor profile instead of a cola flavor profile. So it's like a weird mesh. That's why I say it's like it's kind of smooth. It's like a caramel almost, like a coffee with caramel. Like the cola almost represents as a caramel-esque like flavor, which is the popular coffee flavor. So I guess that makes a lot of sense.
Yes. I might have to get some of this. I don't even like soda that much.
It's okay. Drink it. You can do a lot
There
worse.
you go. It's your professional endorsement. It's okay.
You can drink it.
Drink it.
You could do worse.
You could do a lot worse.
Yeah. Well,
So I go to Coca-Cola.com and offer code Bombcast, is it? Or
that's right.
No. If they were paying for an ad, then those cans wouldn't even be on the show at all.
Yes, we
You only get on
away
the show for free.
Because we are intelligent business people.
Yes.
Oh, video games, Danny.
Yeah.
I am glad you're here for a whole bunch of reasons, but one of the fast emerging reasons that I am glad that you are around is that you play a lot of video games. You show up prepared. To the extent that you have spent a decent chunk of time with a game that just came out this morning, which is Destruction AllStars.
yeah, I gave it a whirl. It was I ran into a almost identical situation that you did last week, Jeff. I think with the Hitman stuff, where it was 3 hours before this is seemingly going live, and just not a not a lick of it on PlayStation Network. Could not see it anywhere. So I was like Googling external websites to see when it would come out or any. I think in the end it was because of the whole PlayStation Plus, right? It's part of that this week.
Like it being part of that, I think, and I think they wouldn't take pre-orders for a free game, so it would need to be there for that reason. And then also, they weren't doing preloads or something like that, so there wouldn't be a reason to have it up for that. So I think with PlayStation Plus, they probably can't. Their system seems so bad that they probably can't post that game until it's ready to go, because they have no mechanism for a game that's there that can't be pre-ordered or added to your library or whatever. So
that's probably true, but does the PS5, now that you mention it, like PS4, they added that like plus icon on the bar that was just like, here's the PlayStation Plus zone where all the free shit is. Like, does the PS5 even have that? I don't think it does.
It's in the store.
Or is it buried in the store somewhere?
Yeah.
Okay. So PS4, it was like a straight up app, basically, like its own.
Yeah, you could tab over. I think there's like a link to that same store page somewhere else in the library section as well, but it just brings you back there. And all they had was, whatever last month's was, Shadow of the Tomb Raider and a couple of other ones, Greedfall, I think. Yeah, but it's just a shame because not even a trailer you could see. But I guess that's neither here nor there because the game came out midnight in all territories yesterday, I guess, or today. And yeah, if people haven't seen it, it's basically like a Destruction Derby meets Rocket League, I guess is the easiest way of sort of putting it. It's made by a bunch of ex-Bizarre Creations folks. So, some good pedigree there.
Yeah.
And it's wait, is it Bizarre Creations or is it Criterion? Now that I'm thinking about it.
I think you're right. Destruction AllStars.
Which good UK car developer made this one?
I want to say I have also said exactly what you just said and then promptly forgot it as soon as I said it, but I think that's right. Lucid Games, Liverpool, England.
Right. So maybe
most of Lucid Games' 10 founders were previously employed by Bizarre Creations.
It was Bizarre. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've enjoyed it. So it's multiplayer only, I think. You can play against bots as well, but the basic gist of the game is that you are in these sort of arenas. You were introduced rather bizarrely by the veteran voice of the Octagon, Bruce Buffer.
What?
UFC's Bruce Buffer introduces your character.
Does he sound so? I watched that last UFC thing, and it was the first one I had seen in a while, and Bruce Buffer's voice kind of maybe isn't as full as it. Hey, I'm not talking about Michael Buffer. Michael Buffer is still the real one as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, okay.
His brother.
That's why he's the UFC Buffer. Okay, because I was thinking like, oh wait, are you saying the Buffer is no longer the boxing Buffer? He's the UFC Buffer now, but no. Apparently,
no. At one point,
Michael Buffer is still in boxing. Is that correct? Okay,
I would hope so. I don't know.
He is now introducing Jake Paul and KSI fights.
I see.
Yeah,
that's where.
Yeah, I guess long term, I wonder if it worked out way better for Bruce Buffer. Because I remember the time when they switched. Because like Michael Buffer was doing UFC for a while, and then didn't they hand it off to Bruce and be like, "We can't afford your $1 million." like
give him the off-brand Buffer.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a while there that Michael Buffer was doing WCW pay-per-views. He also he would do the main events. He would come out before, and he would Hulk Hogan, like all that shit, like all the Hollywood Hulk Hogan NWO days.
Wasn't he getting? Doesn't he get paid for
$1 million? It was
big
some
boxing
insane.
matches. He's fucking like 7 figures.
I don't know if he still commands that, but there the talk at the time there around that kind of turn of the century. That was the good years for Michael Buffer, as far as I can tell. Ready to Rumble boxing was coming out. There's a lot of action there. That he was. The deal I thought was that he was getting like $1 million just to walk out and fucking introduce a fight.
Man, that's gotta be the best hourly rate in history.
That's a good gig.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I wonder. I wonder if he still commands that. Like I assume so, but.
Boxing world is so different now, though.
It is.
Just all these weird prize fights. Like nobody seems to care.
Yeah, it seems like way fewer fights, and like it's like we always get people say like, "Oh man, hey, why isn't EA making more fight night games?" Like, people just don't care. Like by and large, like boxing, like there are definitely pockets of people that still love boxing, but it's not what it used to be. Anyway, yes. So, how is Bruce Buffer's voice in this? Does it sound a little raspy? Because maybe he has too much time in on Fight Island or whatever the fuck, and it's just going bad for him. But like, He didn't
Yeah,
sound amazing.
it sounds good. Probably had a couple of takes at it. It has the good reverb, bounces around the arena right at the start. And then you enter the arena like not in a car. So that's the sort of maybe the interesting thing about this is that there's sort of like the games themselves, they last a couple of minutes and you get points for crashing into people, right? That's kind of the bones of it. There's a couple of different game modes. But the thing that makes it a little bit different is that you can get out of the car, and that also means you can jump out of your car, you can change cars, you have like an alt car that you can call in after a while, and you can also steal other people's cars. Yeah, totally. And your alt car has its own special ability.
I mean, is it basically just
people's cars,
GTA
though,
style?
like a button prompt to like get on top, and then
there's a button prompt to get on top, and then there's it's like one of those both players are doing a different combination of buttons. I think the player who's getting captured has to wiggle their stick, and the other person has to do a bunch of like quick time sort of prompts. And then once you get control of the car, you can either decide to just crash it on them or steal it by pressing another button. But yeah, it's weird. I'm trying to like think of another game that it controls like, because it controls well in that it doesn't control like realistic cars, but it controls the way you would want a Destruction Derby style game where it's not Wreckfest. It's more kind of what was the game Blur, right? That was the driving game they made.
Yeah,
that was
kind of like grown up Mario Kart.
Yeah, so it's probably closer to something like that where, the thing about Destruction Derby games is you want to be able to like line up shots and then not miss at the end. And I guess the way they sort of accomplish that is that the driving is fairly rigid. And then you basically have two moves that you pull off with I think it's the right stick. One is a boost forward and one is a boost sideways.
Oh, cool.
So you can kind of ram people or you can catch up if you think you're going to miss them. And that and the combination of the, just the general driving style kind of works. It feels like it works. Like I was missing sometimes, but I was getting better and landing when I wanted to.
That's cool. This is a weird one because they were taking pre-orders for this pre-launch and it was a $70 game, and like it was, like all the other first-party games, it would just look like something they were going to put out around launch for full price. And just looking at the trailers, and they hadn't really shown a ton of it, but looking at the trailers, like this looks like it could be neat, but this seems like a game that should definitely be free.
Totally, it does not feel like a
shitty thing to say, but yeah, like as from what you're saying, it being multiplayer only. Yeah,
but like Rocket League wasn't $70 when it came out. You know what I mean? Like exactly. That game was a digital only game, and it had that feel to it, and it was online and all that, and eventually became free. But like, there's like 4 game modes in this. 2 of them are solo. Well, they're just variations on a theme. One of them is just like you basically get points for crashing into people. Person at the top gets the win. There's another one that is basically that, except there's like parts of the floor falling out, and you can fall into it. And then there's 2 8v8 ones, which are a little bit. I'd be really interested to see if I find readability really tricky on the teams. Color wise, I wonder if there's color blindness. I would be interested to see what you thought of it, Jeff, because I had like a little bit of difficulty with it. And also the teams figuring out what color your car was and the team cars and their icons. One's like an infinity icon, which I assumed you couldn't hurt them or something. It was a little bit harder to read. But one of them is basically you crash into people, you bank. I guess it's like skulls or something, but you bank gears and you deposit them, and your car gets destroyed when you deposit them. And then the other one is something similar, but you have to collect the gears by jumping out of the car and doing it that way. And then it's kind of like there's a couple of towers that you add them to. So they're just variations on the same sort of core thing. And I think the arenas are all the same or like just barely changed. But it's fun. It's very Rocket League-y, punchy levels. You're kind of in, you're out. It's fun to play even if you don't win. And generally it's the readability is good considering all the different mechanics and controls and inside the car and outside the car stuff you have to do, except in those team games where it's a little bit confusing, or at least it was for me.
How's the rumble on the controller? That seems like it'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm learning something that they're doing with those, because I played one driving game or something I remember where the tension on those triggers for driving became a little bit wary after a while, or I guess it was in Call of Duty probably, where I kind of got sick of doing it. So they kind of, on the initial acceleration, they'll do it, and then it kind of tapers off, so you don't notice it anymore.
Okay, yeah, so you're not like fighting it while you're driving or whatever.
All the time, because it would be, your hands would be wrecked. But yeah, it's good. It's it was one of those games where I noticed the rumble again for the first time in a while.
Yeah.
So many games don't really take advantage of it. But yeah, it was good. It's not like, using the Xbox pad in Forza where you're sort of you're finding the grip. Like generally you're just pedal to the metal, or at least I was. So it's definitely more arcadey than, I still play a lot of Wreckfest, so it's not like that. Physics wise, it's not trying to be realistic. The cars break pretty easily. You jump out of them, you jump in a new car. You're sort of like, there's 16 different characters, and they all have their own sort of car ult, and then their own ult, which is a double jump, I think, and some other move or something. Some of them set the ground on fire. So there's
if you get out of your car as it's getting blown up, does a new one eventually spawn, or do you have to steal someone else's?
No, so there are also floating platforms above the arena that have cars like sitting in them that you are all sort of fighting for. And I'd say like you're out of your car maybe like 15-20% of the time. So there's often people, so you're like running over people as well. Like you'll come across somebody who like jumped out of the car and you're like, oh, take this motherfucker. Yes. Yeah. So that's good fun. And then but you can steal other people's cars. You could, if they abandon their car, you can get in it, but generally they're abandoning it because it's busted and then it disappears after maybe 10 seconds. But you can't do that. And then there's a little bit of variation in the cars that are on those plinths. Like some of them are just regular cars. Some of them are kind of like trucky looking things like VW bus. Some of them are smaller cars, and they control, a little bit different, but not all that different. I was sick of using the vans after a while because they weren't as nimble, but so there's a bit of risk reward there as well, I think. But the alt cars are really good. Like they do stuff like, I think in the tutorial, it's a good tutorial as well, the opening level. It's like a sort of a ninja character dude, and his car can turn invisible, and that can help you like set up really good shots.
Okay, I was gonna ask if there's a lot of like, I don't know, fighting game character or even MOBA character style like abilities on the cars, or is it more just about like how they drive and handle?
I think it's mostly the ability, because they all handle a little bit tighter than the default cars. Because when you start the game, you all run into default car. The only time you're getting a special car is when you're doing that ult thing, and they handle it a little bit better. They turn a little bit faster, but I think the main reason you're doing it is because of the ult that they do, which are mostly all offensive in some way. Like they're one of them just makes a bomb that just blows up a bunch of dudes, and then another one he goes invisible. Another one was collecting things, I think, or had a magnet on it or something. But yeah, there's like 16 characters, so there's a lot going on. So I think that's where some of the depth is, maybe, in trying to like, oh, I should stay away from them because if they are in that car, they're going to do that thing. Whereas I was oblivious to it in the first couple of games, getting to it. Sure. But yeah,
that sounds cool though. Yeah,
do they smack you? They smack you in the face with microtransactions? Because I mean, going from $70 to
selling
quote unquote
currency.
free,
right?
Yeah, like you kind of assume like, hey, let's seed the player base because this is quote unquote free, but then let's maybe make it up on the back end by selling them some stuff. Like, is there a bunch of that in there? Or
so I should have looked for it. I hadn't thought about that, but I didn't notice it having not looked for it. So I don't. There was a sort of an empty space on the mode selection screen which said like challenges coming soon. So I don't know if are they doing like a season pass style thing then, or because it feels like one of those season pass style games. Like it's very Fall Guys-y or Rocket League-y, but I don't know.
They are selling currency, because I went looking for it on the mobile app. I was just in bed last night. I was like, oh, I should at least download this thing so I can wake up and try it. And then when I went to go try to add it to the library, it said sign in, and then I pushed the sign in button and nothing happened. So I was like, well, fuck. So I couldn't actually do it. But when I was looking at the store page for it, there is some kind of currency for sale for the game. I don't know what. I assume it's a cosmetic thing, but
4, 10, and 20 tiers.
Yeah. Ooh. But I wonder if this is exactly what this game was when they were out there saying, hey, this is going to be $70.
Or did they pull a bunch of stuff out that they'll kind of release later?
I wonder. Yeah. If they string that out, or I mean, they will sell it. I don't know if they're going to charge $70 for it.
Actually, is it up for sale? I mean, if you don't have,
if
well,
you
I mean, if you don't have
PlayStation
Plus, you can't
Plus.
play it, right? You can't play the multiplayer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
So I don't know if they.
So maybe they are not actually selling it at all.
Yeah, but I think it is free for. I want to say the store page said it was free until April, so it might be like a 2-month window or something, and then they start selling it for some fee. But it just like that was like the thing that stuck out like a sore thumb early on. Was just looking at it and going like, why are games $70? Period. And then you look at that one in particular and you're like, there's something. So yeah, maybe there's multiplayer content planned or something that they just yanked out or
I want to give this a try, but something about the like neon, like slick looking future esports kind of aesthetic is like maybe a little bit grating to me. I don't know.
It's I wonder I don't know, that's a personal thing, right? Either it's going to push you away or it doesn't. They have a lot of like, Fortnite-y style characters.
I literally was thinking like this is like Fortnite, but a future automotive sport kind of thing.
Yeah, they have this
some
sort of
of the cosmetics are dances. I played around with a little bit of that. Yeah, there's quotes, there's a handful of colors, there's a ton of dances. That's really about it, though.
Is there are there car dances? Can I
car emotes?
Can I do bed dancing? Can I make it?
Are there car emotes? I saw
emotes. I think you pop out of the car and do some.
Ooh.
Yeah, you're like a limousine out of the top.
I want it to be like the Lowrider PS2 game, mini game, and I want to hit the fucking switches and make the fucking car hop. And then fire shoots out of every time I do it, so people die if they get close.
Really put those triggers to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds all right. I'll check that out, considering it's just kind of there.
One of the weird things, I haven't played any multiplayer games on the PS5, but one of the weird things was that the microphone was on by default, and then also all the voice chat was coming out of the controller by default.
Oh my gosh.
So it was like, is that the same on COD? I haven't noticed.
So let me ask you real fast. Had you ever gone into the system settings and told it to mute that microphone? Or
no, it has that button
you can,
now, right on the
it does. You can set it up to be muted by default when you first fire it up.
I just wanted to make sure you weren't saying that it went and turned it back on after you turned it off, which would be extra fucked. But
not that I think.
Okay.
I don't think.
Yeah, I think that game being a free PS Plus game and attracting maybe a wider audience and all that, I feel like you're due for a lot of people saying dumb shit out of the controller and not even realizing that the controller is a microphone.
A lot of people are going to have a rude awakening when they play this.
For some reason, it defaulted me to the Japanese servers, so I thought it was a weird gameplay thing because I'd like sort of picked like a character that was kind of like an anime character, and then my controller, everyone was speaking Japanese, and I was like, "What's going on?" I realized I was just like the only Westerner in this chat room with everyone, so. Yeah. But I could hear them saying my name, so that was cool. So I was like, I'm wrong because they're all complaining about me.
I mean, I'm excited to hear how that microphone works. Like, I think having that thing unmuted by default, on by default, is the wrong decision. But like, this is the first big, like you said, the first big multiplayer game outside of like Call of Duty. Like, I want to just hear what the quality of that microphone is. Like,
I'm kind of like, I feel like I haven't heard a ton playing Call of Duty. You hear some for sure.
Okay. Because that was like, like that was the Xbox 360 dream, right? Like, it was like, hey, we're putting a microphone in every box so everybody can talk to each other. Like, that's kind of this, It's like, hey, everybody that has a PS5 can.
It's this, talk, but like they don't tell people.
Right.
They do, right? It's not that it's not obvious, but I bet there's a lot of people that are just like, wait, what? When it comes to that, because
it's a weird situation.
It's also, how does it affect the rumble stuff? Because that rumble thing doesn't make no noise.
It does. It's I believe when you mute the microphone, you will get stronger rumble.
Oh,
I believe there's a change to that's somewhere on one of the system menus. It'll say like, hey, I read that somewhere when we were doing launch coverage, was that there were differences around stuff like, if you have headphones plugged in or if the microphone's muted, unmuted, whatever, like that's going to all have some kind of impact on the strength of the rumble.
Have you guys had any problems with your rumble? I've had one or two games where it's making a vibration at a certain frequency. It just makes the controller clatter really badly. It was in Bugsnax or something. Yeah. I was like,
I get a lot of, it clacks off my ring a lot. The controller loose on the left, just loose enough to where it's always like, I'm like, shit, I gotta hold the controller tighter to stop that noise. But
I've seen a decent decent number of people talking about the triggers. One of the triggers breaking on them, like the resistance not working in some way, which is a little concerning. But yeah, launch hardware,
Yeah, exactly. We'll know more about that in the next couple of months. All those early adopters will start getting stung.
Yeah.
Start.
Yes. I used my time before this podcast to play a different game that came out this morning.
Oh yeah,
was maybe a little more underwhelming. Check out the Control Ultimate Edition a little bit. I know Jeff also.
Cool.
You played it on both? Is that right?
Yeah.
I downloaded it on the Xbox, the Series X, to check that stuff out because they added it's two modes. It's performance and graphics. Is that the it's maybe not the best. It's not quite Dirt 5. Not quite Dirt 5.
You want graphics or do you want performance?
It's not quite the best language, but they do give you pretty clear explanation of like, hey, this one runs at 60 FPS, this one runs at 30 with ray tracing. So they're at least
and it's very visible, as far as the frame rate is concerned.
It's not
really,
it doesn't
the 30
feel very smooth.
No, it feels like there are parts of that where you're like turning the camera and it almost feels like stop motion animation or something. It just is stuttery. It's not that it's evenly stuttery. It's a very locked at 30 kind of stutter, but there's just something about it that struck me as like, this looks way worse than a lot of other locked at 30 games.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I tried turning motion blur on and off, trying to see like, well, what the hell's going on here? Because with motion blur off, I thought it was way worse or way more noticeable. But even with motion blur on, that game's about a year and a half old now, right? That was a summer game. So I don't know. I guess I had hoped that this version of the game would just run well, and look and have all the bells and whistles. But at 30, I think the movement feels pretty bad. Like there's just a latency to the movement. That I think is there across the board in that game in different ways, but it feels a lot worse at 30. Just the shooting and aiming and all that other stuff I thought felt pretty bad.
Totally. In fairness to this game, I mean, you played it on the PC the first time, right? Like, I've played through this game on the One X my first time through, and like what you're describing is extremely consistent with those versions of the game. I also played half of it on the PS4 Pro, and like both versions on those consoles were not great performance wise, and it translated to the feel of the shooting and stuff, like you were saying. Like it hits that game hard, but like the 60 FPS.
Yes,
the 60 FPS mode is good on this thing because like it's there's no ray tracing, but like still plenty of nice looking reflections and all that stuff. Like it still is a very good looking version of the game, and it runs at 60. Like that's probably the only actual way to play that version, and
that's the way it seems to default to. It seems to default to that. At least it did for me. And I guess that's the system setting. So maybe on PS5 they're no, because Xbox did the same. It defaulted to performance, so they know. It's just disappointing, right? I mean, like if ray tracing is supposed to be a thing that matters, and we're getting games that are a year and a half old coming to these systems, and they can't do both without, it's like each mode has its compromises, and if we can't bridge that gap with games that are not even like new to these platforms, that's a bummer. I guess maybe if they were designing for these platforms from the get-go, then that's a whole different story, and maybe they could have gotten there that way. So it's not a perfect example, but I love Control. It is an amazing game, and I think playing it at 60, like it still looks really nice. It moves a lot better, obviously, at 60, and it holds that frame rate pretty well on both Series X and PS5. There's a little bit of controller stuff on PS5 on the shooting and stuff like that, and like not as extreme as Call of Duty. You get like the Astro's Playroom, like vibration on footstep. That's actually kind of nice. But I don't know. Control was the first game on the PC with ray tracing that I played and went, oh fuck, this is like a big deal. Because of like just had the reflections and how just cool. It's a very dark game. It's a very moody game, and how that comes across. I thought that they did that better than a lot of the ray tracing enabled games I had seen before that. So to see this experience feel compromised on consoles that are supposed to be able to do ray tracing and supposed to be able to do this stuff, it's like, well, all right, what are we going to get over the next 5 years? What are we looking at here?
The unfortunate reality is that the ray tracing hardware in these consoles is AMD's first stab at ray tracing. You know, like their equivalent graphics cards just came out and they don't do it very well either, unfortunately. So like that's what we're stuck with, unless there's
and me playing on PC, like and me playing it on PC, you know, I'm playing it on a G-Sync monitor that's going to really lessen any of those frame rate dips and that I did get in that game for sure when I played it on PC. You know, it really helped with that. Because this PC is not some beat. You know, I have a 2080 in here, and it's fine. It's a great card, but like the CPU is getting older and older and older. It's not some amazing beast of a machine, but it still ran it better than those consoles did.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, that's it's not the perfect thing. It is not. Let's say it's not the ultimate edition of Control. It's not.
No, it's not.
I hope that they eventually get to. This is the ultimate edition, and boy, it runs outstanding. You know, like no compromises.
That's PS5 Pro. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Is this a new purchase? Like if you own it on the old
dude, there is such a fucking can of worms about this game. Like I don't even know where to start with it. Like because there's like the thing I want to bitch about is the save game or lack of save game transfer. But like honestly, I think the bigger affront to people is that they have where do you start? Okay, first of all, yes, it is a new purchase. Like if you owned original Control and the DLC for Control, if you bought all that stuff separately, you don't just get this. Ultimate Edition still a separate purchase, even if you own all of the content that is in Ultimate Edition, which was $40. Is that right? When it came out, was it $40?
I believe that's right.
I think that's right. And I don't think they offered an upgrade path, right? You couldn't just like pay $10 if you owned all the content and like upgrade Ultimate. You had to just buy it outright.
Yeah, I don't believe they did any of that either.
But the thing that people are super mad about is that on the PS5, it's on Plus this month.
Oh, you're kidding! Did
they have been taking?
They've been taking pre-orders for months.
Fall. I mean, they sold Ultimate Edition on PS4, saying like, "Hey, free upgrade to PS5." So like, tons of people bought it on PS4, expecting to just get that PS5 upgrade. In fact, I believe it was on sale on PS4 last month, is what I saw people saying. So like. The point is, like, for months, people have been buying this Ultimate Edition, waiting for this upgrade, and now that it's here, they're giving it away to Plus members, which is most people. That's so a whole bunch of people are very upset that they went and paid for it.
And they're not getting
refunds at this time.
Yeah, we got emails from people saying like, yeah, I bought it a month or two ago, and now they're saying, oh, it's been too long since you bought it, so you can't have a refund.
Because at one point that was also a launch game. Like we received review codes for that game back at the console launch, and then the game got delayed, and so the codes just never started working.
Yeah, we got the codes with them until saying now, like here you go, like here is review code for these PS5 and Series X versions of Control that then didn't come out on time.
Yeah, so it was a super last minute delay. Like they were, so you had people who were like, "Well, I'm getting a PS5, so I'm going to buy it right now," and then like, "Oh, I guess I have to wait." And just a weird clusterfuck. The save thing, they're saying that there was a lot of engine changes between the old console versions and the new console versions that make it hard for them to bring saves over.
Like they may have announced that a while back, and I just missed it. But like right up until I think yesterday, when you mentioned it to me, I thought my save was going to come right in, because you can't play the DLC from the menu of that game.
You cannot. You're right.
There is no option to just say, hey, I want to play these DLC episodes. And from what I understand, I think you have to be like halfway through the game at least to get access to it. And
probably something like that. Yeah.
I played through it on the 1X and loved it. And I was like, oh, I'll wait until that next gen version's out to play that DLC, assuming I could just pick my save up and go. But nope. And like, there are worse uses of your time than playing through Control again. Sure. I guess. Like if I was going to have to replay a game, like it's probably,
I don't want to play it again because I love Control. But
I finished that game and very nearly just turned around and started over. Like I liked it so much. So like maybe not the end, but at this point, maybe I'll just play it on PC if I'm going to have to replay it to get to the DLC. It's bad.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a rough situation.
Yeah, it's that game deserves better for sure.
Yeah.
And
that's.
But at the same time, I will say that, like, hey, as a PlayStation Plus game, if you remove all of that bullshit, the pre-order, like the people, if you remove all the people that have gotten very clearly fucked along the way, the notion that Control is a game that you can just kind of get to and play on, I believe they put the old version, the old console version on Game Pass, but maybe not this new version. And then
Control, I believe Control Ultimate Edition Series X. I'm trying to confirm which version of Control is on Game Pass.
I thought the idea was that the PS5 version was on PS Plus, but over on Xbox they were only getting
the last gen. I believe that's the
last gen version.
That's from what I'm seeing here. I think that's right. Yes.
And then in some territories, for PlayStation Plus, they're only getting the PS5 version of Control, and they're not getting the PS4 version. It's weird. But they're getting some other game in its place. I forget what is it, Bugsnax or no, they're not. They already got Bugsnax. Some other game. Control's a great game.
Control's great.
DLC kind of.
I was just about to say I do hear predominantly that the DLC was maybe not as great. So
it's more Control, that's cool. But like I only played the first one, the Foundation, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Supposedly the Alan Wake one is
the Alan Wake fan.
So it's not fantastic from what I've heard.
I read the plot of the Alan Wake one and just kind of shook my head at it with what the kind of inferences about the world of Alan Wake and the world of Control. But that's me as someone who is not a big Alan Wake supporter. So maybe that's coloring that. But
yeah. But I mean, like Control, like so much of the value of Control to me is uncovering that central mystery slowly over the course of the game and the way that they tease it and lay it out in pieces and stuff. So like without that, like the action's awesome. Like it's got a bunch of fun physicsy psyops shit in it, but without that core conceit, I don't know.
I'm excited to play it because I played maybe 2 hours of it and I ran into that thing where the frame rate just in the combat it was annoying me and I bounced off. This is
dude, if you have not played all, you should really play Control if you haven't played it.
Yeah, it's like a treat. Second.
It is. I think that's got to be. Well, gosh, I don't know. That may be my favorite Remedy game.
It's definitely mine.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, what are the other contenders? Like
Max Payne 1 or 2?
1 and 2 are both.
Yeah,
like 2 is like the rare sequel that's like maybe better than the first one.
3 is the best.
Well,
I didn't like 3. I don't know. Like 3 really rubbed me the wrong way across the board. Like
that might qualify as a hot take. I don't know.
I like Health, but it just didn't. The soundtrack didn't. Everything.
Do you like Health and Man on Fire? Because do I have the video game for you?
Yeah, for sure.
That's the fucked up thing. Is yes and yes, but still somehow Max Payne 3 was just like.
Yeah. You can always listen to the soundtrack. It's real good.
Yeah.
In fairness, Remedy or Max Payne 3, not a Remedy game that was Rockstar. So
yeah, for sure.
What is it? Alan Wake, Quantum Break. That's kind of it. And then Control.
Death Rally, the driving game.
Right, of course.
That's a sick game. I mean, don't get me wrong. That game's great.
I think Control is the best Remedy game.
Was it American Nightmare? What was his?
Yeah, it was a spinoff. I think they might have come out at some point and said like, "Hey, this started as a prototype for a sequel or something like that," but it ended up being an XBLA game that's like 3-4 hours long or something.
I remember that being okay.
It's pretty bite sized. It's got like a weird time loop thing going on. It's kind of interesting, but it's pretty bite sized. So yeah, Control. I'm calling it. Control's the best Remedy game.
Yeah, it really. Yeah, I mean, it makes good on. I feel like the stuff that Quantum Break fumbled, like both narratively and from a gameplay perspective, I think Control was the game where they went like, let's lock this down and make it way better. I think that's exactly what they did.
Yeah. Also, they traded. I mean, Quantum Break was like weird Illuminati stuff, right? Kind of, and then Control traded that out for the supernatural SCP stuff.
Right.
We'll talk about the game.
Quantum Break is such a blur. I remember playing that game before it came out, and just the pacing of like, I'm gonna play a couple hours of like middling shooter content, and then have to set the controller down to watch this like very fucking overwrought TV show thing. Just
right.
Fuck, dude. It was so much. It was way too much. It was like, none of this is good enough to be worth it, what you've done here. I get Microsoft had ambitions on a like a storytelling front, but boy, this is the bad direction for video games. Unless you can nail both of those parts extremely well,
or even one, like even if a good story will like drag you through monotonous gameplay, but it was just like it was never worth it, right? You get
totally,
yeah.
And they didn't. You could eventually, I think at launch, you couldn't just download the videos. You had to stream them.
Oh yeah. Oh, I forgot because it was all like it was kind of choose your own adventure, wasn't it? Like
a little bit, yeah. You would change some stuff as you went. And so it was streaming video that didn't always look outstanding. And then, like when I was playing it, I think some of this was pre-release and some of it was post. But like sometimes the stream would die, and you're like, oh, I got to watch another 20. I got to watch this 20 minutes over again because I have to make these decisions. And it won't just let me. It was fucking wild. It was wild.
Yeah. Speaking of games that both handle the Illuminati and also occasionally disconnect from their servers and make you do things over, I finished Hitman 3, which
I was wondering how you're going to do that. I was
up to and including last night, still booting me off their servers regularly, which.
Dang.
90% of the time I can just hit retry and it just gets me right back in. But the one time in particular, I fucking finished a mission, and during the closing cutscene, like the outro of the mission, it booted me off the server, and I couldn't get back on, and I had to do the whole fucking mission over.
Which mission was it?
Like it was so thankfully it was one of the old missions. I was going back and replaying some stuff, so it was like some of the ICA training stuff from the very beginning of the first one. So it's pretty short, but I straight up.
Those new ones are long, right?
It's pretty long, yeah. So man, like I really like pretty much everything they tried with Hitman 3. Like there's a bunch of different experiments in there with the mechanics of Hitman that they tried, and I think that they're all pretty good, which like I don't know, you tell me. The vibe I was getting from just seeing people talk about the game was that a lot of people seem kind of disappointed with what they did, because like it's not just 6 full-on Hitman levels, like the first 2 games like defined a template very clearly. It's like, hey, you're going to have with minor variations around the edges, hey, you're going to have 2 targets. There's going to be a whole bunch of different ways to kill them. It's going to be a big ass clockwork level. And like 3 out of the 6 maps in this are kind of not entirely that, like they tried experiments where they got away from just like, hey, here's targets, kill them however you want. It's like, okay, now this one is more of a murder mystery. Like you're going to kind of be a detective for this whole map. And like this one is like, we're kind of inverting the thing. And like, now you're the one that's being hunted by the people who would normally be your targets. Like the assassins are after you, Like they try some stuff.
But they do, like, if you're not playing that game in its kind of like narrative mode or whatever, if you're just going into the locations and getting in, you can kind of turn those levels, you turn the story stuff kind of off, right?
You kind of, yes, you more or less can play those levels.
So you can kind of go back to like Dartmoor and not necessarily have it be that full thing.
Pretty much, yes. But Dartmoor does have just one target, so it is a little bit more stripped down.
Sure,
But the thing I noticed from listening to, because I listened to the hotspot yesterday and Vidya was talking about some of the levels that I had done, and I'm wondering if there's like the complexity of some of the like the narrative mesh of that game is way more complex in this one, or has more intersections, because Hitman 1 and 2, you had the mission stories, right? So there was like, I don't know, let's say 20 different ways you could complete any one target, but once you started one of those, they were fairly linear. Whereas what I'm hearing now from like watching streams and listening to other people is that a lot of the mission stories in this one, you can be different people or intersect at different moments. Like at the Dartmoor one, I got the PI into, like I coined him over to a bush right at the start. So I played the entirety of that level, like even when he walked in the door and everything, as him. Whereas I've heard people like intersecting with him at different parts. And then the other one that came to mind was during the winemaking thing, that tour. So I didn't know you could be the tour guide because I was on the tour.
Oh, yeah, I was trying to become the dude who was on the fixer or whoever it is. Clovis Black, I can't remember his name, but
and I think you can get out of that and be the winemaker during it because you have to go into the vineyard. And I also think you could probably, like, even completing that vineyard section, you can be that guy, or you can be one of the workers who goes and gets the grapes. So it looks like there's just like more. I wonder if the levels themselves are deeper. We just haven't gotten we haven't realized yet because it's only been a week or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm
so like I played Dartmoor and originally was like, well, I should probably become the private investigator because that seems like it would be a fun thing. And I was like, well, okay, I'm gonna choke out this gardener and then I'll use that to get closer to him. And as I ran around back, I saw the photographer and all this other stuff, and I was like, oh, I bet being the photographer and doing this would be also really fun. So I just did that and didn't do any of the stuff with the PI at all. And I set up the photo, which is an amazing photo. If you go through that version of the kill, it's really goofy and fun. And then after that, I still had to go up to the safe and do all this other stuff. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess while they're down here worried about this, I'm going to choke out some guard and then run upstairs and hunt around for some safe. And I have very little idea where it is.
I assume with that, you had to like do some work, right? Some legwork to get to the safe, like pull some jack moves to get through the guards and all that shit. Because the thing about the thing I appreciate about the murder mystery, and I am the last person who does the mission stories my first time through. Like, I really want to just like try to like bend and break the level design and like find opportunities myself, and then I'll go back and do the mission stories because they're so scripted, you know, like. Yeah, they lead you by the nose if you leave all the objective indicators on. Like, they really just say, go here, pick up this, go here, get this disguise, go here, push this button, now they're dead. You know, like it's very laid out for you. But the framework of the Dartmoor mission, the PI stuff is so enticing. Like, I followed it to the letter because like I assume like Dana, you did all the detective stuff, right? Like, did you dig into the way that they use the sort of Intel interface to lay out all your clue shit?
It's so clever. You're basically like trying to get information to either say that they have like an alibi or not, right?
Totally, too. Like,
fills it in by itself. Cool. But you can do it in any order you want.
Right. But so like for people, I guess for people who don't play a ton of Hitman, like there's the Intel interface, which is normally like, oh, I picked up this document. That's a clue. Oh, I did this and this. Like, here's a lead. But they're all just like isolated little graphics and pieces of text that don't really relate to each other.
They're practically collectibles. They don't even.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they give you hints about ways you can get targets, but they are very like discrete. Each one is just sort of its own thing. But they use that interface in this, and I have such a thing for developers using these like limited little systems in more creative ways, and they use that system to keep track of all these suspects you need to question in the murder mystery, all the crime scenes and like bedrooms you need to search, and like they cross-reference each other where it'll be like, okay, this person's alibi checks out, so they're crossed off. This person is a viable suspect because you found enough evidence to credibly accuse them of the crime, even though they might not actually be the culprit. You know, like this crime scene, you found 5 out of the 6 clues there are to find. Like, it's all like, it basically made me think I would probably play a whole like private detective game with this interface. Like, it was so fucking fun. So like, I spent like 2 hours.
When I dressed up as a guard and went upstairs, like I kept finding all of like, oh, here's this laptop that says that, oh, she was on a call at 10 p.m. And I started to piece together like, oh, this is the stuff I would need if I was actually trying to solve the mystery of Zachary's murder or whatever. And I was like, that's cool, but they're all downstairs worried about dead people. I'm up here trying to get into the safe.
Totally. You can absolutely just do the Hitman thing if you want, but like, like halfway through that process, I was just like, dude, this is the Nancy Drew game they should make. You know, like this is like the big budget detective like adventure game that they should do. And then the smart way they conclude that is if you go through all that process, if you do it all and figure out definitively who it is, that mission concludes by you walking up to the target in her office, telling her who the murderer is. She gives you the file that is one of your objectives. And then she just strolls out on the balcony, and all of her bodyguards let you just follow her out there and shove her right over the side. the point is, if you jump through all their hoops and solve the whole mystery, they literally serve you both of the objectives on a silver platter in the space of 30 fucking seconds, and then you're done. Like, it's incredible. It's so good.
She like knows your Hitman as well, right? Like she
knows. She literally in that conversation, because there's like some little dialogue choices. You can essentially reveal to her that you are 47. She thinks you're the detective right up until you say something that gives away your cover, and she's like, oh, I thought you might come, and like she fucking knows who you are, and still gives you the file, and still turns her back on you. So like you can just go ice her.
In perfect Hitman form, I did that, and then she went out, and I missed the opportunity because she only goes out there for like 5 or 10 seconds, right? So I was like, shit, I have to do this another way. So even more ridiculously, I ended up killing her in her own fake grave, as I was the funeral director. But like, she sat down and had a conversation with me, right? The bald hitman guy. And now I'm just wearing like a hat, and she doesn't realize, and I'm giving her a tour of her graveyard with the exact same voice, and she's completely oblivious to the fact that it's me, that she knows that there's been an assassin who dresses up as people in her house. And now, oh, this guy's, you know, oddly tall and bald and giving me this tour. I love it.
It's a perfect video game.
It's really incredible. I just glanced at chat, and there are people saying if that conversation plays out differently, if you make different choices when you're talking to her, she will go out on that balcony and kill herself.
Wow.
What? Wow, cool.
Man,
that's amazing.
This is exciting for that James Bond game that they're making.
Totally, dude. I get why some people are a little bummed that maybe like it's not 6 full Hitman levels, especially like later on. There is one level that is very action oriented, but I think I enjoyed that level. It's weird. It's very story focused, but I think Dartmoor and Berlin are like probably maybe the 2 most interesting levels they've ever made, just with all the.
Dude, the drug dealer in Berlin is maybe my favorite costume of all time.
I got the cocaine brick, but I didn't follow that one all the way through.
He looks exactly like a sort of Eurotrash drug dealer. He's wearing like a red fuzzy hat. Like he just looks like if you walked in a room of like 100 ravers, you'd still go, oh yeah, that guy's selling disco biscuits.
Yeah, there he is, Jamiroquai himself.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I assumed the Berlin level was like a downtown club in the middle of Berlin, but you get to that level and it's a fucking rave in an abandoned nuclear power plant out in the middle. The
setup to that level is really clever too. The whole
without giving too much away, like that is the level where you don't know who any of the targets are in that level, and there's a bunch of them, and they are targets because they're all hunting you. Like they're all trying to kill you, and you have to figure out who they are, and then take enough of them down to get the fuck out. Like it's so cool. Like that, those 2 levels are the most creative thing I have seen them do with all 3 of these games.
I think a special shout out to the Vineyard one, because the way in which they tell the story, you know, again, not spoiling it, but the story like plays out. You know, there's a character there you can follow, and sort of like that dynamic I thought was so smart. Like, and to me that feels like the last level. You know what I mean? Especially the way it ends. It's so grandiose and operatic and stupid, and you know, it's the first time that the sort of grand storytelling that happens outside of the levels and the levels themselves properly intersect, and they totally nail it.
Totally.
Yeah, it's
totally
wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there are some things around the edges that make me feel like this maybe. I don't want to assume too much about the development, but like it feels a little lower budget in spots, like some of the cutscenes and voice acting and like number of mission stories and stuff like that. But
was it 2 they didn't have cuts? Remember there was one of them that they didn't have.
It was 2. It was just like stills.
Yeah. They're like kind of motion graphic, sort of like animated stills, sort of. But like that first game, if you go back and watch those cutscenes in the first game, are like very high quality CG. Like they look really nice in most spots, but. You know, they were working with major publishers for those first 2, and this one I think was entirely them, right? So
the mission interest stuff still looks pretty cool with their introducing the targets and the items and whatnot.
Yeah, like the meat of the game for sure is absolutely still there. It is a heck of a Hitman game, and like I am strongly fighting the urge to go back and get level 20 on every map in that game from start to finish right now. Like it's. The thing is,
and they
really
said,
something.
you know, hey, we're not done with Hitman.
Yeah, which is like
you know,
pretty stark contrast to what they were saying before release. Of like they were very.
Then it made all the money back,
like,
and they're like,
right,
word, let's make
they
more.
they were very in your face with like, this is the conclusion to the World of Assassination trilogy. Like this is it for Hitman.
Start a new trilogy. Bond. Make some more dramatic changes. Then, change
totally.
the engine to allow for more. You know, that's the thing. Like I think there's. Especially for a third game on similar technology, like what you're saying about like, oh, they use the Intel interface and they're really like squeezing a lot out of these systems that are now years old. Like you're right. I think that is super exciting, only up to a point. And then you're like, okay, there's like a tech debt here that like you should elaborate on these systems in ways that will like make that stuff fit in a little better and also give you more opportunities to go off in even further directions. And so like if they were to do more, I think it can't. You know, these menus can't look like these menus. It probably needs to be a hard break about like, okay, we've figured out what the next true step in Hitman is, and maybe that's going to open up a new trilogy or something like that.
Totally. But, yeah. And like, you know, assuming the Bond game is like somewhat in this mold, that seems like the perfect and hopefully like commercially viable opportunity for them to evolve all those mechanics and figure out what that next step is. Like that stuff's super exciting. IO has like out of nowhere become like one of my favorite developers in the last like 5 years. It's crazy how good that stuff is. All right. Why don't we take our first break here? We got some more games to talk about on the other side of this, but for now we are going to take a step back. We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. Hey, let's talk about hard dicks, okay? I mean, finally, a place on the internet where we can discuss raging erections. Remember the days when you were always ready with a raging erection? Well, if it's not happening the way it used to, there's something for you. You can increase your performance and get a little bit of extra confidence in bed, and that's Blue Chew. You can go to bluechew.com. That's blue like the color blue. Blue Chew brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis. You can take them anytime, day or night, even on a full stomach, and you'll be ready whenever an opportunity arises. So if you could benefit from more confidence where it counts, and look, we are talking about getting your dick hard here. This is what this is for. You're like, hey, this dick needs to be harder. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. Blue Chew. Blue Chew. It's the fast and easy way to enhance your performance. Blue Chew is prescribed online by licensed physicians, so you don't have to go to a doctor's office or wait in line at the pharmacy, and it ships right to your door in a discreet package. It's made in the USA, and it ships direct, so it's cheaper than a pharmacy. There's no awkwardness. You don't even have to leave the house. That's right. You can sit at home and be like, send me the Blue Chew. Bring the Blue Chew here so that I might use it. For these raging throbbing erections that I am going to use, or fucking, or whatever you do with it. That's on you. You figure that part out. Blue Chew is there to ensure that you're ready. And right now there's a special deal. You can visit bluechew.com and get your first shipment for free when you use the special promo code Bombcast. Just pay $5 in shipping. That's BLUE chew.com, and the promo code is Bombcast to try it for free. That's Blue Chew, the better, cheaper choice. And we thank them for sponsoring the podcast.
All right, back from break. We got other games to talk about. I don't want to dominate with Hitman too much, but I played a decent chunk of that VR stuff. We streamed it on the Relaxed Friday show.
It works surprisingly really well.
Yeah, it sure is dumb.
Yeah.
in exactly the way that you want a VR thing to be dumb and a Hitman thing to be dumb. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, they married them pretty well. Like, it is, I don't think it is. I've only played the Dubai map kind of start to finish in VR. I don't think it's a viable replacement for the real game. Like, I don't think you would want to play through that entire game that way, or certainly not your first time.
Can you play the Hitman 1 and 2 levels?
Yes, you can play all the content in that game.
The full trilogy in VR.
Which is incredible. Right. Like, it's incredible that they did that, as opposed to, like most games, I feel like you would get a separate little crappy, very limited VR mode on like one or two maps. Yeah. It's like, here's our little thing to fulfill whatever obligation we have or whatever. But it's like, it's everything. But like, there's no move support. It's just the DualShock 4, which is it does have some motion controls, but it's pretty awkward just using the controller like that. Like, it feels like there's maybe less items. I would have to compare side by side, but it felt like there was like less stuff to just pick up and mess with in the environment. And like, you don't get as much situational awareness from the kind of Hitman Vision instinct mode, whatever. It is, but you don't get the highlight, so it doesn't like go to gray with like highlighted by color type stuff in the environment. It's more like it'll pop up a couple little just generic red kind of target indicators for where your targets are, but you don't see their silhouettes, so you can't see what they're doing. Like, it's just, you just get less visual information from it when you use it.
What's it look like when you choke someone out?
Pretty fucking dumb. It's all
Jittery physicsy mess is what it looks like watching him play it.
Like the hands, your hands are the dumbest. They're just across the board, like the dumbest thing in that thing, like the most entertaining. Like when you walk up behind somebody, like your hands are sort of, if you look down, your hands are just always sort of like T-Rexing in front of you at all times because that's how you're holding the controller, and they just map to that. But when you walk up close to somebody and just when you put your hands, you hold the controller up to put your hands near their neck, the hands immediately assume like a choking posture. And then you just pull the trigger and start shaking them violently. They choke out. Can you
just go up to people like in the party, like you're about to choke them and no one bats an eyelid?
Like you?
Yeah, you can. Brad was stroking faces last week.
You can stroke people's faces in a very inadvisable fashion, I would say.
Oh, I advise it.
Graphic. But also, like every item in the game, from like actual weapons like swords and knives to even just like wrenches and busts of whatever, the dumb stuff you can use as weapons, you can like you quote unquote prime them by pulling the right trigger, which like makes you do a dumb like knife trick in your hand every time you do it, of just like flipping your knife around, like just go around like flashing your blade at people's faces and nobody does anything. Like it's just,
I just want to walk the runway.
It's really you could do that. Wow, you could become Helmut Kruger. You could truly become Helmut Kruger, and
if only
and meet your destiny. It's worth seeing. If you have a PlayStation VR, it is worth seeing. I don't think it's, again, not a replacement for real Hitman, but it's something.
Did you play on? I got my dongle like 2 days ago. Did you get your dongle in the mail?
I've got one, but I played this on a PS4 Pro because I don't want to pick up the PS5 and move it around for fear of breaking it.
I forget, in base Hitman 3, do you have that behind the back instant knockout punch, or is that just a VR thing?
No, that is a VR thing, actually. Yeah, so
okay.
Like you can. God, I didn't even think about that, because knocking somebody out, especially like quote unquote enemies, like people with enemy or weapons, like people who can fight back, not generic NPCs, like is a whole process of like you have to hit them twice. There's a little quick time event. They try to get back up. You have to hit them again to put them down permanently. In this, it's just a single physics punch. Anybody in the map, one fucking little bop to the face, and they are just down. And you can just run around with your T-Rex arms, just like popping people in the face, just taking, like I was getting through firefights by just running up to people who were shooting at me with submachine guns and just giving it to them. They were all going down. It's really, really ridiculous.
I love how any other game you'd be like, oh, this isn't realistic. But no, it works because Hitman, whatever.
Yep. Yes. Anything can work in Hitman. Jason, how's the Cyber Shadow been treating you?
It's good. Like it's a super faithful like reproduction of like an NES action game, like Ninja Gaiden, like Shattered Hand. It's got a lot of visuals that are similar to that, or like Batman and stuff, where like it's dark and it's like the geometry is highlighted and whatnot. Anyway, but detailed. It's very very stridery as well. But I definitely get the most comparison to Ninja Gaiden for sure.
Sure.
Even
so
with
we're talking
the hawk enemies and shit like that.
Oh, okay. Sure. We're talking NES Strider, not arcade Strider, right?
Yeah, the real Strider.
Yes, arguably the true Strider.
Yeah, true Strider. Shin Strider, they call it.
Yes.
Yeah, but with me, like playing a lot of, old NES games on the Mister as of late, this is further scratching that itch for sure. And it's more than just jump and slash. You get additional abilities down the road. You get the ability to throw shurikens. You get like an up flame type thing. You get some like a ground pound type move. A lot of these actually kind of serve as additional traversal methods. Like you get this like horizontal slash that helps you like jump longer or things like that. My favorite ability, I think, is the parry. So when you've got a bullet coming at you, you hold towards like a third strike type parry. It'll kind of keep that bullet like right in place, and then you slash at it, and it'll fire it back at an enemy. So it's
you like run around and jump and hold it indefinitely, or does it?
No, I think it just stays right there, where right where you parried it.
Okay,
so I don't know. I haven't tried having it follow me, but it's neat. It's done by one guy. It's published by Club Games, but one guy that like used to do ROM hacks or something like that, and he eventually was just like, "Screw it, I'm going to make my own game."
Awesome.
Club came to him and said, "Hey, join up with us.
Yeah,
we'll publish shit for
you." Very much in their wheelhouse for sure.
Yeah, but we got to put Shovel Knight in it. Goddamn,
those are the rules. Yeah,
of course,
those are the rules.
Shovel Knight got to get his.
Is that PC?
What
only?
is the? No, it's all over the
place.
Everything. Yeah. Switch, Xbox.
It's on Game Pass.
Yes, it is
Switch,
on
PS4.
The Switch version has amiibo support for the Shovel Knight amiibo.
Wonderful.
Yes, of course.
That's kind of cool.
Is it I was trying to get a sense of what the structure is from watching Jeff play it on Friday. Like, there's kind of a world map, but it's not a Metroidvania, right? Like, is it just kind of a linear?
Not exactly. A little bit of backtracking, because you eventually get stuff that will help you reach different areas. So there is a little bit of backtracking, I think, and I haven't really encountered any of it thus far, but from what I've seen. But yeah, for the most part, I think it's linear. So and they've got some good, in-engine cutscenes and stuff like that, and I like it.
It looks nice. I do continue to agree that the lack of ducking is a little strange, but they seem to make it work.
Yeah. That's
I don't think you need it, but like obviously, if you build the game around not needing a duck, then you don't need a duck. But there's just something about I just sometimes want to crouch in a game. It turns out it just feels weird when you push down and it doesn't do it.
Maybe the robot didn't have knees.
Yeah, I felt like I've needed it, to be honest.
Okay, yeah.
I like a good snappy one frame duck, just from standing to ducking in one frame, just up and down, up and down.
I like to tap. Yes, I like to teabag air while I'm waiting for moving platforms to line up and shit like that.
Not?
Just sit there and just duck over and over again like an idiot, and then
you're hyping yourself up.
Yeah, exactly. Doing some squats.
Yeah,
that's right. Gosh, what else we got going on here? Danny, you checked out that. We should talk about Balan Wonderworld.
Don't make
talk about Balan
Wonderworld.
Wonderwall. All right.
Wonderland.
Here's Wonderworld.
Am I the only person who's played this demo?
We were thought about playing it and then said maybe
we were gonna play it on the Friday show until the Hitman thing went super long, but I am told that Vinny started checking the demo out before that and immediately was like, we should wait and experience this live for real.
It's a lot. Yuji Naka's back with a bang with this game that did it get announced 2020 E3? I feel like it was like pretty recent. They had that trailer and it well, I guess E3,
right.
Whatever E3
right, yeah.
But yeah, it looked cool. It had like a very lavishly sort of produced CG cutscene with this sort of strange top hat wearing gentleman or something called Balan. It's a very odd. It feels like a machine learning algorithm tried to piece together a platforming game from like lots of disparate elements, and none of it like coalesces around anything, or at least in the demo. It just feels like the most random. Like, it was entertaining because I had no idea what the fuck was going on. It's basically a sort of garden variety 3D platformer. It doesn't look very good, and I was playing on a PS5, which probably doesn't help, but it kind of looked like the closest comparison was like the flat textures of that Pokemon game that came out on Switch. Like, it kind of looks
nice
in and around there. Maybe some better lighting. But yeah, like, doesn't look wonderful. And I guess the gameplay is centered around like wearing suits, like, Mario style.
Like a classic form.
Yeah, it gives you like a different, because you play as a child. The two children you can pick are Emma Cole and Leo Craig, which is maybe one of the worst character names I've heard in a while. It's like two first names. But you put on, some of the costumes will be like have a double jump, one will have a projectile attack, one will have whatever. And then you're just in these like worlds that are, I don't know why. It's the one in the demo is like two worlds and a boss fight, right? And there's a strange hub world, which I'll get to in a second. But it almost like a musical production. It's just based on a song, and the song is about some corn farmer in America who's on troubled times or whatever. And so the levels are just like corn themed.
Yeah,
but like you're also getting followed around by these little chocobo chicken things called Tims, which don't seem to do anything, but they follow you everywhere. And then you collect currency like jewels in the levels. And then once the levels are finished, you go back to the hub world and you feed the jewels to the Tims, and they make more Tims. And then the real currency you want is based on getting the Tims to interact with this sort of like Rube Goldberg. Like, did you guys have Screwball Scramble? That like it's like a
not today
toy game.
The Denny's near me closed, so no.
You get them to interact with this thing, like, and every time they rotate around it, you get an extra currency, and then you use that to build this tower in the middle, and then it's really fucking weird. The second level.
Is it like a bad Chow Garden?
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you load your Tims into your Tim Garden on your VMU and take them to school with you?
Well, like he did work on Yuji Naka did work on Sonic Adventure, right? So you're right.
That's that guy.
I guess it is.
Yeah.
He's made a lot. He's made a fair number of ad polygonal games over the years.
I'm sitting here looking at his CV since Sonic the Hedgehog. Oh gosh, let's tap.
Okay.
Oh, great game.
Classic.
Fishing.
I love Tap.
Fishing Resort. God, Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Billy Hatcher.
Classic.
I don't know, man. Yuji Naka's career has been a little
Nothing but hits.
Here and
he hasn't
there.
made anything in a while though, right? It's been
he worked on. This says he worked on some of the Street Pass games on the 3DS. That's
Yeah.
Sure. But he's not like programming anymore, right? Like now he's a executive producer.
He's like a producer director type
designer.
For a long time, I think he's been kind of in that role. He's through the early 2000s. He was definitely like producer on all that stuff. Like he produced Billy Hatcher and fucking Samba de Amigo.
Right. It feels like one of those.
Game.
It feels like a early aughts 3D platformer where like it's just disparate. Like there are portals, mirrors you go through, and then there's this mini game where you play as Balan, which is it's like just a timing rhythm game thing, and then there's like this baddie in the world. The boss fight is I guess maybe the only mechanically interesting part, because you have to use all of the different. And I say that I'm stretching by saying that, but like compared to everything else, because you have to use all the different costumes in interesting ways to fight it. But dude, it's so strange because it had that weird Viva Pinata vibe where I'm like, this game doesn't. It seems like it has the aesthetic of something that's for children because it's just silly nonsense. But it's not. A child could not play this. This is just like way too weird and confusing and mechanical.
And there's a darkness under there.
Yeah, it's so strange. You guys should definitely do like a quick look or something. It's a nightmare.
We should investigate.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen multiple people just talking about Billy Hatcher recently as a result of this demo coming out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I need to play this.
Which can't be a good thing.
I just Billy Hatcher. Billy Hatcher.
It's incredibly okay.
Yeah,
I can't.
But like in a lot of the same ways, where you're just like, Billy Hatcher is kind of a strange thing, especially when you look back on it now, after all this time. I think at the time when there were more games like this coming out, it was a lot easier to go like, they just made some fucking whatever 3D platformer about big eggs, I guess. And as we get further away from that timeline, this game dropping out of the middle of nowhere after all these years is just like super crazy.
I can't think of anything but Knights when I look at that character in the top hat. Like that's just
it's disgusting, right? Like you look at it and you're like, ugh, God, I feel like I'm looking at a crime scene. Just like, ugh, Knights, disgusting. Just
oh boy,
garbage. You can barely see that guy as well. It's just like he's in a couple of cutscenes, and like I said, this weird mini game if you collect enough trophies of him. But it's not like he's the character. You play as Leo Craig or Emma Cole.
I guess that's Knights in a weird. I mean, I guess you play as Knights a lot, but like you know, if you get hit a bunch, don't you just turn into a kid and then have to turn back into Knights?
Yeah.
Fucking
Knights. So same as this, because you're in costumes and then you get kicked out. Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah. Shit. It's on a demo available now. Check it out for yourself, folks. Yeah. Have your own nightmare. Do not play that game while high. It's a bad
or
idea.
do.
At your own risk. How's Danny? You want to give us a quick primer on Dyson Sphere Program? Is that the name of the game? Project?
What's yeah? It's Project, isn't it? I think I wrote Program. Maybe
I'm not sure. Let me
maybe it is. It's one or the other. I haven't played. These are the types of games where you need to have played, hundreds of hours before you can really speak to them. Similar. I just wanted to kind of put it on people's radar. It's similar to Factorio/Satisfactory. You control a mech on a planet, and you are going around basically building a large factory, harvesting stuff, setting up, refineries. Going through a tech tree, all that sort of stuff. Interesting kind of feel to it. It's out of a Chinese studio, so there's a little bit of localization, rough edges, but it's in early access. And for an early access game, it's pretty, decent. There's a lot to play with there. I guess the unique part of it maybe is that currently I don't think there's any combat in it at all. Obviously, Factorio does a bit of that with the sort of alien folks that are on the planet with you. So it's kind of chill, I guess, like a lot of those games. But I think the thing that is probably going to separate it from those games is just like the length of the tech tree and the scale of it. Because obviously, judging by the name at the end of this, you're going to try and build a Dyson Sphere. So I think it's, you're not just like on the planet. I've seen screenshots where you're like sort of maybe in space looking at, basically the planet has turned into its own factory almost entirely. And then maybe you're on different planets doing it. But, I need to play at least 5,000 more hours to get to that.
Of course.
5,000 more hours and like 3 more updates and 2 patches.
I like that. This thing's getting amazing word of mouth, and I really want to check it out. But it's so hard to keep up with these types of games in early access because so much changes between updates, and it's like, well, I got to relearn that tech tree. It's like, shit, they added another resource requirement to this. Oh crap, it's a lot until these things are done. But did you even get to the point where you started constructing a Dyson Sphere?
No, not at all. Like, no. I think that's like genuinely. I think that's hundreds of hours.
That's straight up end game stuff.
Yeah, it looks cool. Awesome, it's fun. Yeah, it looks great. And the thing about that fan base is like, Factorio sort of opened the door, I feel like, to that stuff. And Satisfactory has obviously been huge, but they're just rabid for those types of games. And there's not many of those games. So whenever a new one comes out, very quickly, a lot of them sort of transition onto it. So it's cool. It means people are chatting about it, and it's fun for an early access game as well. It plays really well, looks good. Sort of the beautiful celestial, kind of got a universe sandbox vibe off of some of the interstellar bits. It's almost got the Mario Galaxy like tiny planetoid, little tiny globe sort of aesthetic going on. Yeah, you can see, like, even when at the start, when you're just playing as the little mech, which I think eventually you can do a lot of like flying around and whatnot, but you're just walking around. Even then, you can flat earthers will hate this game because it's cool. You can see like the globes don't feel that big. They're not like real time, 1-to-1 planetoids. So or at least to our terrestrial planetoids or whatever. So it's beautiful. You can see like sunsets cresting, and the shadows are nice, and it looks super solid. It's a fun game to just be in, and yourself if you're into those games or not, right?
I'm gonna keep up with that thing for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. All right, last game here before we move on to news. Jan, you want to tell us about Oliha? Is that how you say that?
I believe that's how you spell or say Oliha. Elijah, Yeah, maybe, perhaps.
Olija.
Yeah. I'm still pretty early into it. It's a 2D platformer action adventure game. Kind of reminds me of graphically the like early 2D Prince of Persia games.
Yeah.
Except the mobility is really, really neat in this game. And it's kind of scratching that itch of I want a 2D platformer, but I don't want it to be a roguelike. I kind of want to just like get through it and get going. And I think it was during Game of the Year we were talking about good grappling hooks, right? That came up, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
When are we not talking about good grappling hooks?
Fair. Yeah. This, however, has a grappling harpoon spear thing, which is really neat. It really helps with closing the gap with enemies, but it also works as a mobility device where you kind of highlight an enemy that you want to get to, and you throw your spear at it, and then it warps you to that enemy. And that's really neat for combat encounters. It has like the Shovel Knight or the DuckTales Pogo move. So when you're swiping down, you can keep bouncing on top of enemies. And then depending on what other weapon you have, you can kind of build up like a combo meter type of deal going and use like a stronger attack and that'll vary from whichever weapon you're using. The neat thing though is like with the spear, with the spear, you can shoot it off screen into like a doorway, and if it connects to something that it can connect to, whether it's like a little warp point or an enemy, it'll just warp you to the next screen wherever you threw the spear, which is really neat. It's like $14-15. It's out on everything, I think.
Oh. Yeah. So I didn't know what this was when you wrote the name down, but I went and looked at footage. I guess this went kind of like slightly viral on Twitter a few months ago. Like it's one of those games where just like the footage of it is very striking. It's very animated GIF friendly, and I saw some stuff going around. So this looks cool as hell. Yeah,
apparently it's pronounced Olia. Okay.
Right.
I get the vibe that it's a very short game. I'm close to like an hour in, but it feels pretty fun. Hasn't been too challenging though. Like you'll have like a swarm of enemies on screen, but you never feel too overwhelmed. The one boss fight I did was neat, but it's kind of need like a good grappling hook, grappling harpoon, spear, lance type of game once in a while. Just get every couple months. Just imagine what that'd be like.
Just always be grappling.
Yep, always be grappling.
Always be. Yeah.
Some would say I'm hooked.
Oh. Damn, man. This guy.
Some would say that.
After his harrowing morning, this guy's having delusions of grandeur now, man. I don't know.
Imagine if I had a spear this morning. I couldn't have saved the car. That's okay.
You could have pulled the tree down onto it and been like,
yeah.
That's right.
Probably did.
Yeah. That's right.
Get over here, tree. Like,
maybe that is what I did.
Shit.
Sorry to the neighbors. Sorry.
Yeah, don't say that out loud, man.
Okay. Insurance scheme.
Speaking of insurance schemes, let's talk about some news. Why don't we?
Yay.
So, just want to say a quick thank you to Google this week. As, not that we didn't have news to talk about already, but thank you for making the Stadia announcement on a Monday so we can include it in this podcast. Google has shut down their internal Stadia development, which strangely in this blog post by Phil Harrison, I don't think they ever actually spelled out what SG&E stands for, but I assume it's Stadia Games and Entertainment.
Yeah, it's their internal development.
Right. Yes. So I guess that was 2 studios in Los Angeles and Montreal. That's about 150 game developers that are being affected. They say they are trying to place them elsewhere in Google and not necessarily.
Yeah, for all the other games that are being developed in Google.
Right. Yes. Sure. I mean, Google's a big company. There's probably some opportunities, hopefully, there.
You put a survival game into Gmail? If so.
Yeah. They used to put games in the search engine. Remember that?
Well, that was fucking someone pointed out yesterday in all of the horse shit of people talking about this yesterday, someone pointed out, like, man, when they brought out the CEO with their big announcement, the only thing they could point at was the thing like that they put behind him was that fucking shitty little game thing that they put in the browser when your internet was down or whatever it was.
Yeah. So
yeah.
The Phil Harrison post is like, it's got that kind of vague platitude-ish sort of executive speak for the most part. But Stephen Totilo actually ran this news a few minutes before the official announcement went out, and he kind of gave some more actual context to what's going on. It sounds like basically they're saying that the sort of Stadia technology platform will persist, and that they the way they're describing it is they will offer it to third-party partners, which I'm not sure if that means like, hey, we want to put your game on a Stadia branded service, or do we just want to license our streaming tech to you in a way that you can use it under your own branding? I'm not quite sure how that's intended.
I think, well, the 2 things. I mean, one, they said, hey, Stadia will continue and they will continue to sell third-party games and all that other stuff. Like, they were very quick to say, it's not going anywhere, which is like, of course.
Stadia Pro continuing for $10 a month.
Yeah, they'll still keep running that service and doing that stuff. They just, all the games they never shipped will now never ship. Which
Totilo.
We can get into that, but I get like I think when I look at like what's the real value of like a cool streaming service like that, or like a functional one. For me, it becomes stuff like, like, we really want to do more demos. We really want to lower the friction to get players to be able to just try a game out and all that other stuff. And I think that's something that like Microsoft will have. I suspect they'll eventually get into something like that. Like, hey, now we can have a tight image of a game that's like, hey, here's a save state of this game. This demo starts right here. You can play it for X number of minutes and then it shuts down, whatever. And, they're just ways for them to do demos really well around that and just let people try games that I think could be really cool if it works out on the money end, I guess. You got to run those servers, you got to do all that work. But yeah, like, what does it mean to be licensing it to third parties and stuff like that? Like, I think that stuff just seems unclear beyond scenarios like that. I'm sure there are other ones that I'm clearly not able to think of, but like beyond continuing to run the service and some kind of like demo hosting thing.
Yeah, whatever those partnerships turn out to be, Phil Harrison is going to be there to manage that process, to be working on that stuff. Jade Bremen, who came in to run their internal development, is moving on from Google. So,
it even sounds like outside of like the 150 people and God knows how many projects that were going on there, this is likely going to have ripple on effects that we might not really ever know about, with all the people who had games that were being funded partly through Stadia, which you tend to get a lot of indie devs or smaller teams that had that little bit of extra capital to help them bulk up or give them a little bit more runway to finish their games. I've already been people in the past 24 hours that are now scrambling to look for other partners where they are maybe going to have a funding dropout they weren't expecting. So
totally,
see, that sucks because like if you read the announcement, you would think like, oh, if they're still supporting development and still looking to do Stadia, then of course they would continue funding those games. And if anything else, if nothing else, then maybe they would go fund more with the money they're not paying in salary or whatever. But like if they're pulling out on that end too, which I hadn't heard that until just now, but like that to me is like more damning thing than what they came out and announced. Like shutting down development, I think is a really dumb. Dumb's not the word. I don't know, man. This sucks.
It's just typical Google, right? It's just like baby in the basket, bathwater. I mean, all in one go. We're out.
And also, but like, I think if you look at the numbers for Stadia, if you look at the user interest in Stadia, they probably can't be good, right? If they're running that math and they're going like, okay, when we get to the point where we're shipping our own games, how many users? What are we likely to make on it? What's the interest in a game coming from us? And right now, I think that interest is pretty low. They just, they haven't done well at establishing that brand. It's become the butt of a lot of jokes, deservedly so and otherwise. I think they've taken some undeserved shit. For a service that largely works. I don't think the business model is particularly good. I don't think buying
works. Yeah,
the tech is the tech is fine.
Yeah, it just came out with this sort of like the disruptor attitude of this is going to change everything. And like the marketplace for this stuff is too savvy. People called them out on that right away.
Yeah. And also like they never made good on any of the things they said in that, they're like, hey, what if you could be watching someone on Twitch and then push a button and then you're playing from that point? Or, the other stuff along the way that they said, hey, this service will enable situations where you're going to be able to play games that would be impossible on any other platform because we can run it all in the cloud and you can have thousands of players running around and doing all this other stuff. Like, then you think like, okay, well, hopefully those internal studios are working on things that can truly exploit the nature of the platform, because so far you're looking at it going like, well, this is a game I can play locally. And it looks better because you're running these games on medium settings and it's coming through the cloud. So it has this like video compression artifacts all over it too. Like that just sucks. Like the experience on that end was no good.
Weirdly enough, the one use case that seemed to really work was with Cyberpunk, right? Because suddenly people were able to like have the ultra version of that game that maybe they couldn't. Because I guess they anticipated that people like the thing about people who like play PC games, they like to have their PC. They're proud of the investment in their PC, and then those people who don't care about that stuff, they buy consoles. So Stadia was never, it was trying to appeal to people who cared about like that high fidelity, who didn't want to invest. Like it's such a slim market, it seemed like. I'm with you. Go on.
It's a chicken and egg situation, right? Where you've got like, okay, this thing, the main play here for a cloud gaming service is you're appealing to some mythical group of mainstream users, millions and millions of people that don't want to buy a console, that don't want this. They just like hear the game is good and they want to play it, and they want the lowest path. They're like, oh, I can just click this button. I can be playing it on my phone right now with a controller, or on my TV, or on my, like wherever I am. It can run anywhere.
Yeah,
but basically they never had
people that only play GTA and Madden. To me, basically, it's like
sure,
they've got their one or two franchises, and that's all they want to play.
But they never got it onto the platforms. Like they just never did the work. Like they still haven't rolled that thing out widely on all Chromecasts. It's still, you have to buy the special fucking Stadia Chromecast. Like it's crazy.
The timing of this is baffling because they just made that announcement that it's coming to like LG TVs this year and stuff. Like they're finally getting it into the TV sets that it needed to be in from day one to appeal to that crowd. Like it's
yeah. And so like maybe they're just looking at it as like, hey, for the amount of investment that it would take us to get these games, and like for all we know, the games that those internal studios were developing sucked shit, right? We just don't know. And maybe they didn't take advantage of what that platform could do and all this other stuff. Maybe they're right to shut it down with how those games were going. I have no idea.
Yeah. Couple quotes really from the
feels like they just didn't, they never got it. They never put out the stuff to like all the links in that chain never formed up. They didn't get it out on TVs in time. They didn't do all this. Like they didn't do themselves any fucking favors on this thing. They fucked up every step of the way from the day they announced it. It just seemed like they were fucking up. So it's,
externally and internally from the sound of it. I mean, there's a couple quotes, tidbits in this Satilla's story that sheds more light on how things have been going there. The story says Kotaku began to hear rumblings from sources close to Stadia last week that Google service was heading for major change. One games industry source said that Google was canceling multiple projects, basically any games slated for release beyond a specific 2021 window, though they believed games close to release would still come out. And then the story concludes with the line, said one source familiar with Stadia's first-party operations, citing another tech giant's widely publicized failure to create video games. Google was a terrible place to make games. Imagine Amazon, but under-resourced.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Like they did not even get behind it internally at all from the sound of things.
And like week one, it seemed that way. You know, they never, for as much as they put on their big show and had like YouTube guys going to come out and talk about how great this can be, and then now the head of Google is going to come out and say a bunch of meaningless stuff, and then they're going to go and get Jade Raymond, who is a name, and then like no one had anything concrete to say at the initial reveal, and every step of the way it just seemed like they were like, it's going to be great, we got negative latency, like you know, they had to fight the fight on a lot of fronts because they had to get people excited about this technology, which has like some holes in it. It's not amazingly perfect, it works, but you have to sell people on that and then sell people on the service. And just, man, none of it just felt like they stopped doing the work at some point a month or two after they announced it. And then it came out and you're like, okay, no, this is a good place for me to log in and collect my Destiny, like clan engrams, and then log out immediately because I don't have to download it or whatever. But whoops, I have it downloaded. So maybe I can just do that. You know, the load times were not like markedly faster than a decent PC. Like there was nothing about it that made it appealing. And it's unsurprising. It's still just, but you just look at it and just go like, of course this happened, but shit, man.
It's like almost beyond parody at this point, you know?
Yeah. Like the number of people that got caught in the crossfire on this that have to now go find a job in the middle of all this other shit that's going on. Like that just fucking sucks.
Yeah. It's for sure. I still, to this day, I don't know why they have been so resistant to just a flat subscription based, like kind of, you know, play what you want Netflix model, which is what Luna is doing. It's like what Game Pass plus xCloud is going to be. Like that seems like
that's why I bet a lot of people didn't want to be wrapped up. Like I guess some are on Xbox and PSN as well, Game Pass, but I can see resistance from like who are they fighting? They're fighting Microsoft and Sony. Like maybe they're trying to, you know, pretend like
and the Amazon service, for as much as like the subscription method of like, here you get some games for $6 a month, and then you can also do the Ubisoft thing. Like as much as I think that's like a more sensible way to go about like a cloud service, if you don't already have an ecosystem and a platform and games to sell the way Microsoft does, like the selection on Luna is not great. It's okay. But like for where they're at right now, and also, you know, you don't have to use it obviously, but man, that Luna controller sucks. It's so bad. It is the most fucking like Steel Series ass mobile controller feeling cheap ass piece of shit that I have touched in a long time. But it has the Wi-Fi guts in it that will, help reduce latency and stuff. So it's like you're kind of like, well, I could use a good controller and have the latency be a little worse, or use this, skip a hop, and just feel like I'm using a piece of garbage. The Amazon method doesn't seem perfect either. I think with the way things are right now, I think for us, especially as people who play a lot of fucking video games already, the Microsoft method of like, here's a thing you can do, and not pushing it as like, this is it, here's the future, like the soft push of like, yeah, you could do it. Yeah, we'll put it on iOS eventually. We'll figure that out.
Totally. The streaming market seems like it's Microsoft's to lose right now. Like they've got the model that people are actually going to cotton to,
Yeah, because you don't have to engage with it unless you want to. Unless you're like, oh, it turns out I am on the road. Wait, I can do this? Oh, that's cool. Like, that's a cool way to do it, because it's not something you're relying on for the only way you have to play this game.
Yeah, and assuming they get to that goal, the ideal of 100% of games on Game Pass can be streamed, which maybe there are a bunch of business deals that have to happen behind that, but like that solves the Luna problem of the lineup is not amazing for what you're paying for, right? Because the Game Pass lineup is quite good. Like they have games people want to play, and they're going to let you stream them in a way that people actually want to stream them. So we'll see how that stuff goes. In other news, there was a recent kind of investors meeting in Japan with Nintendo, where they basically said new Switch model not being announced anytime soon is the translation that the Takashi Mochizuki from Bloomberg has offered. Not anytime soon. So
eventually,
probably
is what that is.
Probably
it's coming next month. Calling it out.
I mean,
we're not announcing it today.
Yeah. I mean, what the rumors were last year at one point, right? And they shifted to this year, and now they're just kind of kicking the can down the road a little bit.
Well, I think the difference here. Gosh, I wish I remember where I saw this, but like, last year they were answering this question a little bit differently. Someone else noted this. I feel like shit for not remembering who, but it was more like a more definitive shutdown last time, and now it's like, we're not announcing anything anytime soon, which has a real like, yeah, of course we're doing this, but not today.
I mean the full answer from this Bloomberg translation is not planning an announcement anytime soon, as we have the Mario version of the Switch in February and a Monster Hunter version in March. So like they're only talking about through March, so that could easily still be like a summer.
Yeah. It's never stopped them before. They've released hardware after the fact of having new stuff out.
But like, what new one do you think? Is it horsepower? Like
that was the rumor, was it'd be like a 4K capable thing of some kind. But
or like the dock itself would have some hardware in it to help offset the load.
Boost them.
Yeah. The rumors have been very vague about that stuff, but
I think it's held up surprisingly. Like I guess it's 4 years old, but it still feels like a new piece of kit every time I pick it up.
Yeah, if they Nintendo's very good about squeezing performance out of the hardware they've got.
And remember that, like, if this announcement was supposed to happen last year, remember that Animal Crossing happened last year, and they've been selling that console like crazy, and they may be looking at it and going like, oh, we don't need to do this right now.
Yeah, so actually that some other facts that came out of this event are that like they've passed 80 million Switches sold in the space of 4 years, which is kind of a lot.
Jesus.
A lot. And there was even sorry, let me pull that quote back up. There's even some sort of supply chain chat in this answer saying that they basically have enough components on hand to continue making the existing Switch for the foreseeable future. So like, why would they roll out a new model when they've got manufacturing down for this one and it's still flying off shelves? So
I think, you have to look at like, again, it's a case of like, would I like a more powerful device to play Nintendo's first party games on? Sure. I'd like to see them exploit even more power. We're also in a world where like, why the fuck is Bayonetta 3 not out yet? What's going on with like, there's so many Nintendo published games now, or not so many, but like there are enough that like seemingly have gone dark. You can't help but wonder like, are they just having trouble making it not look like trash on, undocked? Because there are a lot of rough looking Switch games. Nintendo is really good at doing Nintendo-ass Nintendo games on Nintendo's hardware, as they always have been, and that stuff looks great. But other developers
Yeah, I mean, even Hyrule, the new Hyrule Warriors, a Nintendo published game developed by another team, is like pretty chunky on that thing. Like it's starting to show its age a little bit for sure.
I was very surprised how good Hades looked on it. Maybe the art style helps as well, because it's that type of like, pixel perfect stuff. It's not very effects laden.
Sure.
But yeah, it's I would love to have those devs have more power to play with when it comes to those games. That'd be cool. But like, it's when you look at what they're selling and the type of games that Nintendo's internal teams tend to make and all other stuff, like it's very easy to look at it and go like, yeah, I guess this is why they wouldn't rush into new hardware. Do you think? Do you think they just keep the 3DS lineage alive and they call it New Switch?
That's the new Nintendo Switch. It's my
the new Nintendo Switch.
Yeah,
Switch XL. It's like a link.
Just a fat new like laundry detergent looking label right on there. I don't know.
What if you bolt the new Switch on top of this on the side of where like the right Joy-Con would be, so you have two screens again, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
And a Joy-Con in the middle, like an N64 controller.
Yo, okay.
Really fuck this thing up. Or they go the Jay White route and call it King Switch. Like what do we want to do here?
I'm surprised how many people are referring to this hypothetical thing as the Switch Pro, because I always thought PlayStation 4 Pro was like not a great name to begin with.
Switch Pro is a really dumb name.
Yes,
Super Switch.
Super Switch. Super Switch is the other one that I have been thinking about for a while, which would be pretty good.
Which is why I think Nintendo will just go with new Nintendo Switch. It's just the right kind of whatever.
Has like kind of crappy precedent because they were terrible about using that new horsepower in the new 3DS and also like locking out games on the old 3DS that ran like garbage. Like it was just a bad.
I think it'll end up being. There's a real possibility that this ends up being a bad situation where so many existing Switches have sold that then they eventually put out a new Switch and you're like, yeah, but they all have to still run on the old one. Yeah. So we're still kind of supporting that one as the primary target. And maybe you get, a little extra horsepower. Maybe you don't. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's probably a connection between the amount of install base they have on any previous console and the next time, because the DS stuff, they were so hesitant to put that in the back catalog, and they kept selling consoles sell for years and years once they get down even cheaper. I just remember like how the PSP 4 years into it didn't feel as like good as the Switch still does. So like, why would they do it? Especially Nintendo being so hesitant as they are to shelve the old stuff.
Still plenty of Wii U games to port over before they move on. Next story, which is like, yes, it is a story in that it has been making the rounds over the last week, but I guess we could have dug this up 5 years ago if we had been intrepid enough to look for it. I feel like this has consistently been one of like the hottest questions on my mind about like specifically open world game design over the last few years. Where the fuck is the Nemesis system? Why are not more developers doing this? This came out of a Game Maker's Toolkit video on YouTube. It's a really good channel that does a lot of deep dissection of game design and mechanics and stuff like that about the Nemesis system. It's a great video that digs into the Shadow of War Nemesis system in particular. And if you didn't play that game, like it's a good like 15-20 minute breakdown of why it was so damn cool, despite all of that game's other problems. But toward the end of the video, he reveals he thought to go to the U.S. Patent and Trade Office when nobody else did, and found that Monolith and Warner Brothers filed for a patent on the Nemesis system in 2016, which looks like it is close to being granted, which certainly sheds some light on why nobody else has been doing what seems like a very obvious thing to do in open world games.
Yeah.
So
this makes way more sense now.
Yep, it sure does.
Do you think that other teams thought about it and then went looking for the patent and then sort of were
I assume any major publisher and developers backed by major publishers have, they're so flush with lawyers and have so much due diligence that goes into the very beginning of projects like that spinning up, that they have to have all known about this and just thought like this is not worth the fight. Is my guess.
Such a massive shame. The only one I can think of is
dude.
Auxiliary loading game stuff that was in 2005.
Yeah. So I can't. Yeah. I came to find through people talking about this that BioWare patented the dialogue wheel from Mass Effect. So there's another example for you.
Right. Yes, they did. Yeah, they did.
Casey Hudson. Yes. Casey Hudson straight up listed as the first inventor of the dialogue wheel in Mass Effect.
So why do I see that in other games?
So I mean, I think there are ways probably vetted by lawyers to differentiate just enough to probably not run afoul of this stuff, is my guess.
Really?
A dialogue oval, for example.
Right.
Check out my dialogue trapezoid.
Like on the Nemesis system stuff, people pointed out that the recent Assassin's Creed games have kind of been veering in that direction a little bit, but not exactly. Like the patent, I might as well read the name of the Nemesis patent is Nemesis characters, Nemesis forts, social vendettas, and followers in computer games. That is the name of the patent. And they've got all kinds of diagrams here explaining in minute detail how it would work and why nobody else can use it. So I don't know, man. Like, that's a huge bummer.
It seems like it seems like that power is used in like the wrong ways, where there's so many like copycat games. Like when you look at iOS store, or like with the 3's 2048 thing, and
2048 is the classic example.
Yeah, and the Flappy Bird clones. Like there's a way in which you would think some sort of law would protect ideas, but it's not this. Like this just feels gross in a way that's like, when someone comes up with an idea, especially in an artistic medium, what happens next with a good idea is that people vibe off that good idea. It'd be like if like Notch told everyone you couldn't make crafting games in first person. We wouldn't have had like the 10 years of weird exploration in that way.
Yeah. I mean, it was such totally, dude. Like, it was such a good idea out of the gate, and they executed on the idea so well, even in this first iteration, that like, imagine where it could have gone with other developers bringing their own, ideas.
I think there's probably, again, with all these people flush with lawyers, I think there are probably, like, if a developer really wanted to pursue something in this direction, they would be able to vibe off it in ways that made significant changes to it. There are, just because BioWare patented the dialogue wheel doesn't mean there's no dialogue in games, right? I mean, there's dialogue before, there's dialogue after, there's choices. It's really just a graphic presentation of that. And this is, I think there probably have to be ways to look at the limitations that this patent places on you and go like, okay, well, we'll do this sort of stuff and then take it in this direction. Or like, hey, their thing, maybe the social aspect of it, of like, hey, you've got a multiplayer connection to someone else's Nemesis tree, or whatever it ends up being. There are ways around it. It seems like there would be ways around that sort of stuff if you were really dedicated to it. And I saw there was Josh Sawyer, somebody was saying like, man, reading this makes me want to make a knockoff variant of this system even more now. So
yeah.
So it's and I think it sounds like that as much as this started in 2016 or whatever, that it was like recent that this patent maybe got granted or kind of passed.
It's almost there. It's not fully.
It got rejected and they're appealing it, right?
Yeah. Well, it looks like they overcame the rejection.
Oh, they did?
And it is basically, I mean, I ain't a patent lawyer, of course, but like the write-ups I've seen about this make it sound like the phase that it is in makes it seem like it being granted fully is imminent. So it's probably going to go through.
It's super rare. I remember doing research for something a couple of years back and looking at this. There was it was like a banking software or something. It was a precedent-setting piece of law in this sort of realm, where the problem was that the execution, the ideas were so immaterial that it was very difficult for them to, basically patent lawyers didn't want to go near, or judges rather, didn't want to set a precedent that the idea in and of itself, or not because you look at, remember Brendan Sinclair used to have that Tumblr where he just put up all those patents, weird diagrams. They're so particular about the execution of ideas that the ideas themselves can't be patented. So that people were very worried about dropping into this world of software concepts being patented because they're so ethereal almost. So I'm disappointed
and a lot of that
they
stuff
actually might be successful with it, because I thought that it was kind of done once the Namco stuff was done.
Yeah, I think it's, but at the same time, there's like, you kind of can't patent certain ideas. It is about that execution. I think that's why there's probably plenty of room for people to wiggle around and come up with something that serves a similar purpose in a like markedly different way than the Nemesis system does. Because that's all the stuff that like came up when like when Pac-Man came out and became the biggest game in the world, suddenly every other game was Pac-Man. When Space Invaders came out, suddenly every game became Space Invaders and Galaxian and so on and so forth. And I think there was a lot of talk then about like, man, Ladybug sure is just fucking Pac-Man. That's weird. And they were like, well, it's because of this, and you can't do, like the different ways that law has always kind of been interpreted has left a certain amount of wiggle room of what you can and can't lock down. So if they can lock down this system and that execution of it, I have to imagine that there's enough wiggle room there that if you're approaching this problem creatively and you're thinking about it kind of organically about like, hey, we want a system where if I kill a guy, someone else has a vendetta against me for doing so, and that's a generative system that will continually generate guys coming after me with increasingly fucked up vendettas. There you go. We're going to go patent something I just called the vendetta system. Ooh. And here we go.
All the paperwork.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hope maybe I hope some people take a cue from Josh Sawyer and feel indignant enough to try to finally circumvent this and take a stab at it somehow. Because like
game jam.
It is
Nemesis.
Nemesis is game jam.
It is so goddamn cool though. Like the Game Maker's Toolkit video is very good if you just want to see like some of the extremes they take it to in that second game. Like, he points out in that video, like, totally divorced from the Nemesis system, that is an incredibly generic, bordering on mediocre open world game. Like, there is nothing special about that game, but the Nemesis system elevates it so much that, like, God, just think about how many other open world games are out there that could have used something like that. But here we are.
Some did, like they put something like Diablo 3 has something sort of like this now, I think. There's developers have tried to do things along these lines. They just haven't made it like, and probably why they went to go patent it is because that is that game. That is the core of that game. With like you just said, without that game, that's nothing. It's like if I were them, I would quote clip you out saying that and present it in court when I'm suing someone over it. Is like, hey, this system we came up with is so robust. It is literally our entire game, and they stole our entire game, and so they must pay.
Like plugging that into a game that already has a web of interconnected systems, like an Assassin's Creed. Like, none of us here are game developers, but that sounds like a nightmare. So I imagine,
Yes. Well, let's all look forward to new takes on the Nemesis TM system in forthcoming Warner Brothers games. Yeah.
Sure.
Skate 4? Yes. Skate
all
4.
those Lego Nemesises.
Yes. God, what are they? I mean, God, I forget what else they have coming, but anyway. Skate 4. EA has founded a studio in Vancouver, which seems like a decent place to make a skateboarding game. To make Skate 4, it's called Full Circle. Is it Black Box? Black Box made Skate, right? No.
Black Box
were they not?
Yeah,
Black Box made Skate, but Black Box went away a while ago.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, like they call out at least a couple of developers by name.
Cuz is on it again.
Yes, Cuz Perry and Darren Chung, I believe, are the leads. Studio is called Full Circle. I don't have a sense of how much of the staff in this new studio is just straight up veteran skate developers, but they are. So like it is very much, there is some continuity there for sure.
It's typical EA. They just wait until Tony Hawk brings the genre back, and then they're like, "Okay, we're back. Here we go. Skate's back, everyone."
Yeah, I hope they do right by it. I mean, it still feels like they have said precious little about what that game actually is, and it seems like obviously they're just getting started, right? Hey, we founded a studio. How long have they been really? Are they even in full production yet? I don't know.
Doesn't really sound like it. But...
Yeah.
It's different, right? Because now the Steam has like Skater XL and what's the other one again?
Session.
Session, of course, yeah.
Do they both have periods? I know Session has a period after it. I can't
Session
remember.
has a period. Skater XL does not.
Okay.
Like both of those don't have a big like goal-oriented video game attached to them.
Yeah.
Those are like, hey, we made a world for you to skate around in, just do whatever. And I think that's cool, but it just I needed more from those games. So
none of them have 3-minute intro videos with every skateboarder.
Also, you know what?
World on.
Yes, honestly, like the look and feel of a skate video goes a long way, right?
It does.
For sure. So I think that yes, if they do nothing else, if they at least do one more skate intro video, we will at least gotten that. But
maybe worth mentioning that Skate 3. Have you played Skate 3 on the new consoles?
It's
really good.
Well.
Yeah, it runs really well. At the load times, you can, especially with the teleport thing, where you like set your, you can go down that aqueduct and then get back up to the top in like 2 seconds. It's brilliant.
Yeah. It's yes, Skate 3 very much worth playing. I feel like the campaign in Skate 2, I think I liked better. It was just there was more to it, or it was longer, or something. But
the map was
I feel like Skate 3 was just like real flimsy, or as good as the rest of that game is. Like, was the story Black Box eventually started making those Plants vs Zombies games, the shooters, right?
Yes,
that was
some
of the people when that studio went away because Criterion was going to do all the driving.
Yes. Because they made Need for Speed the Run, is that right?
Right. They were the AB Criterion Black Box Need for Speed switcheroo for a while there.
Yeah.
And then I think at some point I think someone who was there wrote in and said, "Hey, a lot of us are now working on these Plants vs Zombies shooters and some other stuff." That's what became of Black Box or whatever.
Yeah, for what they were, not bad games, but anyway, I mean, it's not an absolute guarantee that Skate 4 will come out, but they have started the studio to make it, so it's at least.
Do they call it #Skate 4?
That's how this VentureBeat story refers to it. I'm not sure if that's what EA is doing.
No, I don't understand.
Become the meme.
Yeah, might as well, right?
Maybe that's not cool. I don't know.
There was that rumor a while back saying that Skate 4 was going to be a mobile game and all that other stuff. I feel like until they come out and say, here's what we're doing and here's when it's coming out and here's what platforms it's on, there's still some part of me that's just like,
I didn't even think about that.
But I think the interest is there for them to do a full sequel and all that other stuff. So, or a full reboot, whatever you want to call it. They should call that studio like Full Circle is a very funny name, but here's what if they called it Vicarious Visions 2. Hear me out.
Okay. Let's see here. Cyberpunk 2077. Perhaps you've heard of it. CD Projekt Red has rolled out some modding tools for that game, and then immediately started removing mods that let you have sex with Keanu Reeves.
No,
damn it!
No. Why not?
There are sex scenes.
Just let me have sex with Keanu, please.
As Keanu with Keanu.
Let the people have their Keanu.
Good Lord.
So I don't know. I don't know if these are like full modding tools or if this is just kind of like a first wave of like basic stuff.
Model swaps, weren't they? I think.
Yeah,
but basically like the mod was a model swap to kind of insert the Keanu model into an existing sex scene, and then they said like what was their? Did they give a reason?
Yeah,
right.
The statement they
legally we can't.
Well, they did. I don't know that they said legally. The way they framed it was more like, out of respect and deference for people who have lent their likeness to our game, we can't allow this. But I bet it is fully a contractual obligation thing as well, right?
I get that, but also there are already sex scenes with Keanu Reeves in the game. So, like, what are you really saying here? Like, our sex scenes are okay, but yours, like, that's just a weird. That strikes me as super weird. And obviously, like, those were third-party user-created mods that, like, I think they went to like Nexus or whatever mod site was hosting it and made them take it down. But it's not like that's going to.
Oh wow.
If anything, that's just going to make people now make every character Keanu Reeves, shoot Keanu Reeves, fuck Keanu Reeves, all this other stuff. And Conan O'Brien never got treated this way. Why not?
Yeah,
what happened?
Not yet. Not yet.
What happened? What happened?
God, I
put them on your back.
How come?
There's like a giant hole in my memory. I'm trying to think what game. Oh, right.
That's
of course.
right?
Yes, of course. Yes. I was like, what game has he been in as a character model? Oh, right, that one.
Why didn't?
Could be making out with Jeff Keighley right now.
Wait, are there?
I know.
Are there any sex scenes in Death Stranding?
No.
Not yet.
Can you just pull that model into Gary's mod? What are we doing?
I mean, you'd probably have to do some work, but like, whatever. People are ripping models out of games and doing all kinds of bad stuff with them all the time, and maybe I just haven't looked well enough. But like, honestly,
where there's a will, there's a way with that stuff.
Yeah.
Hang on. We should probably hang on. Death Stranding, Conan O'Brien,
Private browsing.
Are you in Bing?
I bet that's what they're worried about with the Keanu stuff, is that it would just kick into it like its own little weird subgenre on your favorite.
I do not.
I typed in SFM Conan O'Brien and got nothing, so I don't.
Yeah, yes, I too am coming up with nothing so far to let you have sex with Conan O'Brien in Death Stranding or otherwise.
Messed up.
But
should be able to.
Anyway,
you gotta wait for them to be dead. That's the future.
That's right.
That's right. That's not legal.
Yeah.
Oh yes, chat points out. I saw this myself. The one Death Stranding mod seems to be one that makes your guy look like the Joker.
Oh,
cool.
Wait, like Joaquin Phoenix Joker, or
yeah.
You do the dance.
Go down
everywhere
the stairs
you're walking.
real
You're doing the dance.
I think that would probably take too much work, but
I have not seen the film The Joker, nor have I ever seen that. Nor have I ever seen that like stairwell dance scene with audio, just like animated GIF form. What is the canonical music associated with that scene? Does anybody know?
I forget.
Hey.
I'm not gonna. Is that really what it is?
Yeah.
Friday, gotta get down on Friday. No,
no, maybe I do need to see that movie.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. All right, let's move on here. Last pair of stories. Got a Gearbox twofer for you here. A little double whammy.
Dang.
Of news stories to conclude this segment. This past Sunday, January the 31st, Battleborn left us permanently. The servers were shut down. The game is no longer playable in any form whatsoever, at least until somebody figures out how to reverse engineer something. And
again, I think the phrase "where there's a will, there's a way" applies there, so maybe that won't happen. But
I don't know.
Could.
I mean, there is, I did find some fan art on the subreddit commemorating the occasion. So there are people.
Hey, watch out for that! Watch out for that fan art, man. I just got word that some of that fan art's a little racy. Look out!
Somebody was playing Battleborn right up to the end.
Yeah.
So
there was some community of people that did come together at the end there.
Yes. Say what you will about Battleborn, but like it was a major release that is no longer playable just from a preservation perspective.
Yeah.
That is always a bummer, regardless of nature of the game. So I don't know. I don't know what the hooks are there that people could maybe dig into and figure something out.
When did it come out? Like 2016?
2016.
Wow,
May 2016.
It had its time.
Yeah. It had a few weeks before Overwatch came out.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know. Like that Overwatch demo came out and,
the marketing killed it. Before, right? It was expectations.
Like, well, we got a mushroom guy. Like, no, I don't think that's going to cut it, dude.
Yes.
But Overwatch wasn't a hobby grade hero shooter, so
it's true.
It'll never have that.
True.
I don't know, man. Battleborn, it's easy to goof on it and all that other stuff for a lot of reasons, but that was a game that when they first showed it off, it was like a pre-E3 event, and they're like, check it out, this is our next game. It's this hero, like sitting down and playing it, it was definitely this feeling of like playing it once and being like, all right, I'm good. I mean, there's nothing there was nothing to that made me want to do it again. Just the characters and style of it and all that other stuff just seemed so far off from like desirable. I don't know. Just like even like if you remove the Overwatch, like stomping it, just timing wise and all that other stuff happening, like I never thought much of Battleborn on its own merits either. It just never seemed like it was what they should have been making. Just seemed like it was this weird diversion, especially at a time when like there was already such notable demand for Borderlands 3, right? I mean, and that game wouldn't come for years later, for years. It just seemed like a really awkward, like, misstep from them. Like that maybe they should have stuck to what they knew and just done Borderlands a few years earlier or something like that. I think history might have been kinder to Borderlands. I don't know. Maybe I guess the jury's still out on that to some extent. Like they'll still put out content, but maybe even Borderlands 3 would have been a little better received had it come earlier. I don't know.
I bet from a business standpoint, it was so early in that sort of first-person games as service trend that happened, right? That whole, forever games, like you're saying with Overwatch and stuff. Like nobody really knew like expectation for customers or what people wanted. The market didn't really know what it wanted. It was kind of felt like a weird pitch, and it always seemed to have like a lot of people playing at the litany of events it was at, right? Like it always was the biggest booth with like loads of people at it.
Yeah,
but yeah, like just. I'm with you. There was nothing like special about it that grabbed you,
Yeah.
It didn't have a vibe, I think, that a lot of people wanted to spend that amount of time with it.
And then also like no, you're right. Yeah. It just the vibe of it just seemed like there was no reason, but like the amount of money they put into that thing seemed like remarkable as well. And like, Gearbox had this weird experimental phase where they had like a one-on-one or like very low player count arena shooter that was trying to do like a Quake, but you also built a deck of cards to give you some abilities that like they tested off and on for a while. Then it never came out. I don't know if it's even still running. I haven't heard anything about it in a long time, but they had us play that at one point.
Playing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. They did that Penn and Teller VR game because, of course, they did.
Yeah,
just nice. Just a weird, yeah. Gearbox. I feel like Battleborn. You could look at Battleborn as the product of and cause of a lot of like Gearbox turning from like, oh yeah, Borderlands, like it's to like Gearbox. Am I right? Like it
just seems like other things happened along the way there as well.
Sure. Yeah. No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
It was part of the story for sure. Speaking of which, I just went and looked. That Hobby Gray tweet is from 2014. It was almost 7 years old.
So old.
So yeah, it's been a long road.
Feels like just yesterday.
That's right. It's forever in our hearts.
I've got some pictures of me at Medieval Times. I still live quite close to one in Maryland. It was good fun.
The other half of our Gearbox block here is that the Borderlands movie being directed by Eli Roth has its Roland. It's Kevin Hart?
What?
It's Kevin Hart.
I had heard that before, and I honestly thought it was a joke.
It's Kevin Hart. Roland, the classic boisterous, wisecracking character Roland from Borderlands.
Right.
Well, I think Kevin Hart's name had been attached for a little while, but they hadn't said the role, right? So people were like, well, was he going to be Claptrap? What's going on?
Yeah.
And then Roland, who is just like
Roland, I think, not that the characters have ever been super strong in the Borderlands games. I mean, primarily because they didn't speak in the first one, but like Roland is just this like borderline, doesn't even talk, like strong silent type, taciturn.
No, that's fine. Eli Roth doesn't have memorable characters in his movies either, so
that's fair. That's fair.
Roland also, talked more in Borderlands 2.
You're right.
They made all those playable characters into story characters, but even there, like he's
just kind of all business,
weird
right?
fit. That's a weird kind of bad fit for what Roland the character is, but also it's a video game movie. Who fucking cares? They suck shit.
What if suck shit? What if they kill off Roland and they put his soul into a robot and then it's Claptrap?
Okay. Yeah, why not?
Sure. Right. Okay, yeah. Sure. Also, I mean, the other confirmed role so far is that Lilith is being played by Cate Blanchett. So,
what?
Fucking who knows? Highly esteemed actress.
On board.
Cate Blanchett. Yeah, fucking who knows? I don't know. Yes,
it's just got to be some agent looking at numbers and going like, this Borderlands thing seems like a big deal.
Do you think you'd love interest in the movie too? Cate Blanchett and Kevin Hart?
I don't know, man.
Why not?
Oh, good will they, won't they?
and Claptrap.
Ooh.
Cash paycheck, I guess. Yeah. All right. Well, that does it. That does it for video game news. Unless you consider Jeff Bezos stepping down as CEO of Amazon to be within the scope of video game news.
Is it because of Luna?
Yes. He saw what happened with Stadia. He was like, "Oh shit, I got to get out while I can."
Yeah.
So,
I hope he does. I wish him well in his future endeavors. That's got to be tough.
Yeah. Yes, I'm sure. Hopefully, there will be some other opportunities for him out there.
Yeah.
Always other planets.
Do you think he'll have to start paying for Prime now, or like?
He's probably not going to mention that on his way out the door. Maybe he just hopes the new management overlooks that.
Yeah.
All right. That's it for news. Let's take two real fast here and then come back with some emails. Emails. Bombcast at giantbomb.com. Wow.
Remix.
Guns out for emails?
That's right.
Okay, here we go.
Yep.
Big email fans around here. Boy. Matt from Overland Park, Kansas. I need help. It's 3:30 a.m. Well, it's not anymore. I hope you figured it out. But I'm going to watch a movie. Should I watch Soul Plane or Fear of a Black Hat?
Oh, Soul Plane.
Soul Plane.
Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. It's pretty unanimous decree here. I hope that you made the right choice.
Go to sleep. 3:30 in the fucking morning.
3:30 is pretty late to be starting a movie, I'm going to say. But,
You just got off work at midnight. Who knows?
that's possible. Yeah, maybe we're well, yeah, some kind of night shift. Let's see here. Russ from Houston. How are we going to get 8K games on a PS5 if we can't even get 4K at 60 or 120 hertz to run reliably?
I can't even get like 8 games on here. The hard drive's not very big.
I really thought that PS5 would do away with graphic mode versus performance mode. Thoughts? I mean, first thing I think of when I see a question like that is, hey, remember how they marketed the PS3 as a 1080p console? And then none of the games ran at 1080p? Kind of like that.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Maybe, hey, we'll get a Super Stardust 8K edition or something.
There will be like 2 or 3 indie downloadable games that are like super simple Geometry Wars-y kind of games that Resogun 2 will run at 8K or something. But
when do our eyes stop realizing how many? Is it 6K where it's just indiscernible?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a function of distance and screen size. It's like at this size, being this distance away is where it matters and doesn't matter. And blah, there's like,
I mean, I'm more interested in like the light stuff. I picked up the Minecraft Windows 10 version and modded it with the some of those, or added some of those RTX stuff to it. And that's, like Jeff was saying about Control with the ray tracing, right? Like that stuff's more interesting than the pixel. The pixels are almost getting in the way a little bit now. I feel like
sure.
Like I'll take frame rate and nice lighting over straight up resolution any day.
For sure.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. Let's see here. Gosh, this is such a big question. I almost don't want to broach this. Question from Austin. What is the best Hitman map? Oh, I don't know if I can. I can't answer this question. I don't know.
What about 3? Just we could do it game by game even.
Okay. Wow, that's very methodical. I like that.
Just like Agent 47.
Gosh. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm very partial to Paris and Sapienza.
It's Paris.
Sapienza.
Paris is
Paris is the right answer.
Paris
here.
is still very good.
Is that the one with the runway?
Yeah.
Like Sapienza is like it's like a 1A 1B scenario, because Sapienza I think is really good too.
Yes. Like I don't love Marrakesh.
Yeah.
The Bangkok hotel is okay. I love the Colorado map in the first game just for the audacity of calling it Freedom Fighters and putting characters from Freedom Fighters in that map. Yeah. Like that's amazing. I mean, God, I don't know, dude. I can't even pick a best map from one. Like Hokkaido.
What's the race car? The race car.
Miami.
Is that Miami?
Miami 2 is the race car track. That's a really good one.
It depends if you like the two types of levels they made. We did a documentary on Hitman 2016 a couple of years back, and it was snail houses and fortresses were the two types of map you had. So a fortress is like Sapienza, where you need to get in and then do whatever. And the snail house was more like you can basically have free reign of almost the entire thing, but there's like an inner area that's harder and harder to get to. So in Paris, that's the different floors. Where you can get to the next, and then the fortress is more of you have to get yourself in, and then once you're in, you're sort of able to move around.
Yeah. God, man.
Paris is hard to argue. It's also like the Mario Kart problem, is it? It's like the first level you really fell in love with.
That's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
that's the home of Helmut Kruger.
Whittleton Creek, the throwback to Blood Money's neighborhood one.
I loved that one.
Like, having not played much of those old games, like, that was really inspired because they're all so exotic, and like, it's the world's most powerful people that you're taking down, and then just like, here's this sleepy little suburb in Vermont or whatever it is. Fun change of pace. Isle of Sgale from the end of Hitman 2 is pretty good. Just the crazy Illuminati masquerade ball. Like, this question is unanswerable. I cannot pick.
What's the worst?
Ooh.
Argument to be made for the final level of 3.
You think? I mean,
it's
should we
nothing level?
Light, mild, kind of mechanical spoilers for the end of Hitman 3 if you don't want to hear it.
Maybe I played it wrong. I just ran and gunned my whole way through.
That's kind of what it is. Like, it's mostly an action level. I mean, you can play it pretty stealthy, but it's very funneled and directed and like really shooting heavy, which is really out of step with that series. But I almost like appreciated the change of pace in a way. Like,
narratively, that seems like sensible.
Yeah. Like, what's going on in the story, it is very much like you've got one thing you need to do, and you fucking need to get there and do it, and that's it. Yeah. But like, I think it would go down a lot better if 3 had 7 maps, and this was sort of the 7th like epilogue map. But like, giving up an entire like full Hitman level in exchange for this makes it a little tougher. But
how did you feel about is it Japan in Hitman 3? That's the one nobody really talks
about. Chongqing.
China, sorry. Yeah.
It's cool.
It's like 2 fortresses. It's interesting.
Yeah. It gets real weird and sci-fi, high tech when you dig into it.
I think that's one of the more like complex ones. Like, it took me a long time to like figure it out and get in and get to the different areas.
Yeah, I think my least favorite maps, at least just in terms of like setting and look and stuff, are like Marrakesh and Mumbai. Like, they're just kind of generic city environments without a lot of character. You're just sort of wandering the streets for the most part. So
yeah,
those are definitely less memorable. Oh, the drug cartel one from 2 I thought was pretty weak as well.
Oh yeah, we in the grass a lot.
Yeah,
Colombia.
Yeah. Well, of course, that is the mission that brought us super cocaine. So
yeah,
I don't know.
There are scenarios on that map that are like very, very good.
Yeah.
But
yes,
the map itself, like,
is that the one with the mariachi bands or something? Or it's like a band?
Yes, it totally is. Yes, it totally is. Yes.
Fucking super cocaine.
Super cocaine. Alex from Pittsburgh. My 4-year-old son thinks that Super Mario Bros. 2 is, quote, stupid and, quote, confusing, but likes Five Nights at Freddy's and Among Us because his mom lets him watch YouTube. Is it time to start distancing myself from him?
Go out for milk.
Yeah.
That is a much darker answer than I expected for that question.
Yeah.
I think we just have to move on.
I don't understand the reference, but I'm not going to ask.
I don't know if that's like an American media thing, but the idea is that Dad went out for milk and never came back.
Yeah, I got to go out and get a carton of cigarettes. I'll be back.
That is very much like family abandonment kind of dark humor.
If you're a real gamer, that's what you do.
Boy.
Just getting old, man. Just getting old. Kids don't care about the games you liked. Like, that's it, right? That's the future that awaits all of us.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, like that's where we're at. Instead of it being like, oh, my kid listens to that damn devil music, it's going to be like, oh, my kid just won't stop fucking talking about this Five Nights at Freddy's merch.
Maybe their kid likes watching games more than actually playing them.
Yeah, fair.
Perfect. Sit next to me. I'm here all week.
I'm playing Hitman.
That's right.
Here for the next 18 years.
Yeah.
Oh man. Jan, I'm starting to wonder if your experience this morning has changed you.
I'm a different man.
Oh boy.
Wanted a pickup truck. Now I can't get that.
Oof. Here's a question that is mostly addressed to Danny, although it's fairly general, from Paul. Back in 2011, during the development of Broken Age, Double Fine encouraged community involvement. In a way, the episodes of the accompanying docuseries and much of the actual game's development can be seen as a result of an ongoing conversation with the Kickstarter backers. Recently, I tried to go back to the Double Fine forums where the community side of the conversation played out. I discovered that the forums are gone.
Whole site's down, yeah.
Yeah, I understand why this would happen from a business perspective, but I am curious, as a game documentarian, what thoughts, if any, you have about this disappearing context.
Yeah, I mean, from a game preservationist perspective, it's one of the sad things as well. Maybe there's a Wayback Machine of it and it's stored somewhere in a server off Clement Street, in archive.org. But yeah, totally. They've had to shut. We interviewed Tim Schafer a couple of months back and they shut down the whole site because they're part of Microsoft now and they need to have it all secure and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, that's a massive shame. It's similar in a way with the Hades stuff, because we just finished our final episode of our series on that game's early access development, and all of their community feedback, and that game wouldn't have been the same way it ended up being on 1.0 had it not been for all of the community feedback they had, on the Discord on a day-to-day basis, and then also some of the heuristics and data that they're getting from players actively playing, in that smaller pool on Epic and then the bigger pool on Steam. And so on and so forth. So all that stuff, as well as where are Discord logs? How do you even catalog or retain any of that sort of stuff? At least with message boards, somebody's had a little bit of thought and put down a message, and it's been curated in their brain a little bit beforehand.
And there's
so it's sad. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but it's weird. It's the data. What you'll often get, I feel especially when you talk to developers about feedback on their games, is that the thing that the player says is one thing, but how it's what the developer hears from that is different, right? It's not that they found X problem and they're like, oh, we have to fix X problem. It's maybe that that X problem enlightens them about something maybe that the player didn't learn earlier on, or that it might connect with another system that they're currently working on. So in a way, I kind of feel that's fine. A lot of that is not primary data. You know what I mean? It's not primary historical data. It's kind of maybe a bit more secondary, and the learnings were separate. But that's why it's so great that they have that series. That series is amazing.
It's really good.
Double Fine Adventure, yeah. Our thing was 6 episodes. Theirs is I think it's 20.
That's a lot. It's very long, and it's so revealing. To this day, I am still almost shocked at how candid it is. They don't self-censor or shy away from showing hey, here's where we were having dire financial problems. Here's where we were scrambling to keep money coming in because we went over budget and over schedule, and things are tense around here, and it's not a pretty scene. They're pretty willing to show that side of the development of that game, which is pretty refreshing.
Yeah, but it's funny because the original Kickstarter for Broken Age was meant to be a Kickstarter for the documentary series, but then they were like, oh, you know what? Maybe we'll make a game around it. So instead of it just being embedded at Double Fine, it'll be about this game. But then, of course, the game ended up earning way more money than anyone expected, and it turned into the main focus of the studio. So in a way, the monetary stuff had to be, from their internal perspective, it was always connected to that in some way. So it's cool though. It's real lightning in a bottle stuff, because at Microsoft, you'd never get that access. You know what I mean? I'll try their best. Yeah. That's Tim just, being creative director and company owner, right?
Sure. God, I don't know how I keep forgetting that Double Fine got bought by Microsoft. Everybody keeps talking about Bethesda and Obsidian and name 2 or 3 of their other acquisitions, and quietly, oh yeah, Double Fine is also a Microsoft company now. What the hell?
In Exile.
Yeah, right.
As well.
Yeah. Let's see. Alex from Asheville, North Carolina. Do you think there will be price cuts for last-gen systems, or because they are still semi-hard to find because of the pandemic, are Sony and Microsoft just going to stop selling them sooner than usual instead of cutting the price on them, so they can focus on current-gen systems more? I was wanting to pick up a PS4 to play Last of Us Part 2, but I can't justify spending $300 for a PS4 Slim just for one game. Amazon and Walmart only have PS4s through third-party sellers, and all are above MSRP. Can't even find one on Target's website, and Best Buy only seems to have the $300 Slim in stock.
Wow.
I might be crazy, but I could have sworn I saw 360s and PS3s for $99 to $199 within the first year of the One and PS4 being out. I was hoping for a price cut that dramatic again.
$99 is probably a weird. I don't know that the 360 hit $99 anytime.
What was there was a $200 one, right? There was like a
the 360e, like that very last model. I think was a $199 or something. But
like the PS2 got to $99 at some point, right?
Right
like back then. But I don't. Yeah. I wonder if like is $199 maybe the final price point for consoles now? Like $99 is a thing of the past.
I think the final price point for this last generation of consoles, I think we're at it. I think that they will just sell through stock, and they will maybe have like, okay, here's our budget model for people that are really on a budget, and it's not going to be a PS4 Pro. It's going to be that Slim, and then maybe that's $300 until they just go like, we'll stop making them, and now we've got a. Maybe they've dropped a PS5 price to where now they've got a PS5 that's $300 or something like that. And Microsoft seems like they're in the same boat, right? Of like the Series S, they've already got a budget model current generation console, in a lot of ways. So how much lower are you going to go on an Xbox One S, I guess? I don't see a ton of reason for them to keep that stuff around unless they can't fix the stock situation for current gen consoles anytime soon. Then it's like, okay, well, is it easier for us to make the old shit? Like they're in a weird position where maybe they've shifted production so far over towards the new ones, but are still having trouble making enough of those that then the old stock's drying up more than they maybe thought it would, because like people that want a console are just soaking up whatever's out there. It's unprecedented times, right? It's just like, I think all that's a factor of the pandemic in a lot of ways. So yeah, I don't think we see an abundance of consoles at $199 this time around. You see a lot of used ones. You see a lot of refurbs.
Yeah, I was about to say, I worked GameStop during a couple of console transitions, and this is the time if you don't mind a pre-owned console, this is the time to get it, because everyone's going to be chucking in their old ones to get the new versions to get a couple of money off. I'm not sure what the deal is with brick and mortar now with the pandemic, but even eBay, like people will be getting rid of their old consoles, probably with a hunk of games as well, for probably much lower than MSRP if you're interested in that.
Especially if you just want to play one game like this person does, Even if the used console you buy is a little beat up, like it's probably going to last through one game before it comes out.
The PS4s were like, I didn't have any problem with any of my PS4s. They seemed like
other than fan noise, they were quite sturdy. Yeah. I think generally. I did have the hard drive become like corrupted and force a full wipe and reinstall on PS4s multiple times.
Oh, really?
Like at the office.
I did have it once, I think. Yeah.
That happened to my Pro. Like when I pulled it out to replace it with the PS5, it just corrupted somehow. I lost everything on it. All right. Couple more emails here before we get out of here. Dante from Orlando, Florida. What is your best or most favorite game cartridge by look and feel? I love the Japanese Mega Drive cartridges with their rounded sides and top. They look and feel great to me. What about the worst? I disliked the N64 cartridges.
Those are fine, I guess.
Yeah, the N64 cartridges are very thick, like dense. They feel really heavy to me.
And I feel like some feel heavier than others, right? Because
yeah, sure.
You want I want that abnormally heavy game, right? Like if there's like a certain amount of like, well, we've got more chips in this one, so it's denser and heavier. Like that's a good feel. Like, man, this one's serious.
For sure. Let's see.
Wonder Swan. I think the look of that thing is rad.
I don't even know what does a Wonder Swan game even look like?
It kind of looks like they're long and the
weird.
The pins are like exposed.
Yeah, the connectors are just like hanging out there. Wow, that's a weird looking thing. Huh.
I don't like Game Gear cartridges because like it looks like a little P, right? You can't stack them neatly against each other.
Yeah.
Sure.
Link's games were the same way. Like Link's carts are kind of cool because they're super flat, but then they have a curve at the end of them that makes it so you can't really stack them easily without building like a weird ramp shaped stack, which is fun in its own way. I think Neo Geo cartridges are cool because they're fucking there's two
like
rows
fucking...
of connectors on them, and there's this big bulky, especially the MVS card. There's these big black fucking carts with just Japanese writing on the end, and it scribbles all over them because you bought it used. And you just slam that fucker in there like that. Yeah, that thing feels great. Here,
yep. All right, show and tell.
The cartridges for WarioWare Twisted and Boktai were neat.
Oh yeah,
because they leaked over the GBA.
Straight up solar cells on the Boktai cartridge. Yeah,
just this big old. I mean, this one's pretty light. Street Slam's not a super heavy, but this just there's a.
It's like the size of
feel
a beta.
To this. Exactly, it's like
the size of a beta
check out this
that you would have gotten from Broadcast.
Totally, it feels like so weirdly retro futuristic, the same way like big beta tapes still do in some ways. But this big old fucker, it's neat.
Just brain somebody with that thing.
Yeah,
man, that is Wonder Swan cartridges look weird. That's
weird,
cool.
Aren't they?
That is really strange.
Come in like a little thing because they're exposed.
Yeah,
so you got them in like a little cigarette box or something.
No, that's cool. I'm still partial to the NES cart. We just real NES ass looking.
Yeah, like asymmetrical design to it. I like. Yep. Yeah. Like that.
Indeed. Let's see here. Chris from Toronto. Back in 2014, Kiefer Sutherland said he did voice work for Mortal Kombat. 6 years later, that doesn't actually seem to be the case. Was there any follow-up to this? Has there ever been a case where a celebrity came out saying they were featured in a game and that game never came out?
I think he just lost a fight to a Christmas tree and thought that he was in a Mortal Kombat fight.
Shit. I went back and looked. I googled this because I did not remember this. I guess this would have been prior to Mortal Kombat X. So like presumably, if this actually happened or was going to happen, that's the game he was talking about potentially being in.
Jack Bauer was going to be in Mortal Kombat X.
Oh, I guess I could see that. That seems like the kind of DLC character they might pursue.
Oh, yeah.
Now that you mention it, that sounds like a likely explanation for that.
But they wouldn't have him do the work unless the deal had been closed. Like that wouldn't have.
Or it was a Metal Gear Solid. Maybe he just got confused.
Right.
He forgot.
Yeah, that's my guess. Is he was like,
both start with M.
Mortal Metal.
Yes,
my album.
Yeah. Oh man. That was also prior to MGS5 coming out, so like not long before that. So it very well could be the case.
Kept you waiting. I turned up at Mortal Kombat 11. Kept you waiting.
Yeah. I turned up some Ed Boon quotes from around that time saying, no, that didn't happen. So, I don't know, man.
Nice.
Don't know. Okay. 2 more emails real quick. Caleb from Connecticut. Have any of you kept up with the Intellivision Amico over the past year or so? I just looked it up, and it did raise over $7 million on Fig for pre-orders and has Jay Allard listed as a team member. Plus, it's $250, and the gameplay videos they put out are mostly just Tommy Tallarico talking about the controllers. Is it just me, or does this all seem a little weird to anyone else?
It does seem really strange. I didn't know that it raised that much money. Holy crap.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that thing's got an interesting idea to it, or a hook. It's got the little iPhone or sort of iPod Touch looking little controllers with screens on them and stuff. But like, I don't know.
You could do a fully local, you don't know, like a Jackbox thing with something like that.
Yeah.
Like that's all I see when I look at that is like, oh yeah, okay. You pick football plays on it like a VMU. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like it doesn't, that thing certainly doesn't strike me like a scam or anything like that, but I don't know what kind of market potential it actually has at a price point like that.
Right.
$250.
$250 feels like kind of a lot for that thing, but
it's I don't. Yes, and the financials around, what they expect to sell and parts and costs and all that. Like there's it's another one of these systems that, well, no, because the other one is the Chameleon or something that never shipped, but like there's an aspect of like, and it's like the good old days. You don't need to patch it.
Yeah.
Like that is such a misguided fucking thing. Like, yes,
I agree.
like patches in games are a hassle. It's annoying. You know, but when the alternative is, whoops, we shipped broken games and now it's really hard to fix them. Like, are they saying, you know, like how much money are they really going to spend on QA and making sure that all that stuff is right? Like that's on them then if they're out there saying that. So it's, I don't know. It's like, yeah, you're right. It doesn't seem like a scam. Does not seem like a fiasco just yet. But you look at it and go like, we'll see. I don't know. It's kind of a tough some of the things they're saying look interesting, but I don't know.
The games are going to be bite-sized too, like priced between $3 and $8.
Yeah, they're cheap games, and
like how are you going to turn? How's a developer going to turn a profit on those unless they're like porting some old ass 16-bit game or doing something that is phone game sized and you know, hey, cool.
Or they sell tens of millions of those things, which again at that price point seems like a tall order.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to think about it. Every time I look at it, it just looks more confusing in a lot of different ways. Of just like I don't know. Like the math on it seems weird.
Also, like getting into the Mr. scene more kind of makes it seem to me like that whole idea of like back in the day games didn't need patches is kind of a fallacy to begin with, because like there are so many revisions of cart-based games in the archives for that stuff. Like games were getting updated all the time. It's just that people bought the first run. Who bought the first run did not benefit from those updates.
Yeah. And you rarely, it was rarely stuff that you would encounter, I guess, but you know, generally, hopefully. But yes, they definitely fixed games after release all the time.
Yeah, we live in a world now where like your light bulbs get patched. You know what I mean? Like it's not it's not like consoles are the only thing now that you have to hook up to the internet. We live in a world of machines of thing, Internet of Things or whatever, you know.
Yeah, and like with the pitch of it, like think about it from this angle of like, here's this thing that they're trying to say like, oh, this is something we want to make that's going to like appeal to families and appeal to wide audiences and all this other stuff, and then they're like, and we're going to remake Night Stalker. They're like, who the fuck cares about Night Stalker? Like I like Night Stalker, don't get me wrong, but fucking who? What? Okay, sure, fine, go for it. But like, who the fuck remembers in television games except for like a bunch of dudes, many of whom are probably older than I am,
and many of whom are working on this project.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you know, it's just such a strange to be like, oh, well, when you look at it, you're like, oh, you could see like a Wii-like potential of this thing taking off if they did the right games for the right price point and all this other stuff. But then like the only people talking about it are like, yeah, fucking, I remember B-17 bomber. The speech would talk just like that. You turn it on and goes, there's B-17 bomber, but it'd be way scratchier because the speech was weird. And like, it's just fucking strange. It's just such a strange fucking thing. And I would love to see that thing come out and take off and do cool things and have like a new road for you know, low priced games and all this other stuff. But there are just so many strange aspects about it. You just like, I don't even know what the fuck I'm looking at. It is like just a bizarre thing. So I wish them the best. I would love for that thing to come out and be rad. Because again, like I like Night Stalker. I don't know. Sure.
Just don't patch it. Carries brand name recognition as like an Atari or anything like that.
Doesn't.
But like, look at what Atari's. You know, Atari's. You know, it's like their brand recognition is both eternal and also they are using it in the worst possible way.
Totally.
Every step of the way, Atari is doing something that disappoints. You just look at it and go like, who the hell is running this thing? So sad.
Yep. All right. Speaking of weird, last email. Aidan from Donegal in Ireland.
Donegal.
This is for Danny. Danny, could you please explain Gaelic football? Or yes. Wait. Let me make sure I'm reading this right. Here's how he worded this. My brain reversed it. Could you please explain Gaelic games football for the PS2 to everyone? Is that correct?
Wow, yeah. Weirdly enough, a friend of our stuff, and I think giantbomb, because he brought you guys a bunch of Buckfast once, Jeff Newman. Yeah. Weirdly enough, he is shipping me, like literally yesterday, he shipped me a plated, maybe somebody saw this conversation on Twitter, a plated like, you know, boxed version of the PS2 Gaelic Games football game, which I guess was given out to people. I don't know. So it's super weird and rare. And I was like, yeah, sure, fucking send that here. I'll pay for the shipping. So they were these weird. I feel like, did we never play these in our weird ventures into European sports? We perhaps
no. We only played.
Yeah, a lot of Don Bradman around here. Oh.
Yeah, maybe some other cricket nonsense. So they were Gaelic. There's like 2 Irish sports. I won't go along into this. There's one called hurling, where you hit a ball with a stick, and there's one. It's the fastest field sport in the world.
Love to hurl.
And then it's like that in Highlight, I think. Yeah, exactly. That's why it didn't take off here. People just thought you were getting sick. And then the other one's Gaelic football, which is kind of similar, except you play with a ball, like a soccer kind of looking ball, 15 on 15, all amateur. You play for your county. It's super cool. We have a big stadium in Dublin, 90,000 seater, where the games are played, and it's an entirely amateur sport. So it's super cool and like big in Ireland. But obviously, like tiny install base, right? Like who's going to play this game except Irish PlayStation owners, I guess. So they had some team who made the Aussie rule games in Australia.
Yeah,
try and basically make these games on that engine, and they're people love them in Ireland because it's incredible they were ever made. It's ridiculous that somebody made a commercial product video game about our very esoteric domestic sports, but they are awful representations of the sport. Where like games in hurling and Gaelic football would end like you can score goals and points, so they'll end like 320 to 424 or something, and you'll play one of these games and it'll be like 2 points to 3. Like it just doesn't scale to the length you require or whatever. But they're like wonderful oddities. And I recently saw somebody on Twitter, I retweeted it, some dude I think in Ireland is making his own like Unity or Unreal based Gaelic football game. So fair play to him. But yeah, they hold a special place in Irish gamers' hearts, along with the official Irish PlayStation magazine, which lasted about 2 years as well. So big video games,
separate demo discs.
No, I think it was like a reskin of the UK one, but there was Irish writers that had like special like articles or something like that. But games are huge back home. We used to have the big factoid used to be that we had the second highest per capita penetration of PlayStations in the world outside of Japan. So gaming's always been massive back home. A lot of tech savvy people and a lot of rain. So you want to be indoors.
Winning fun. Combo.
That's
exactly.
Right. Plus, drink enough Bucky. It doesn't matter how good the game is.
Exactly.
I still have one of those, and I can't imagine it's getting better with age, but I still have a sealed bottle of Buckfast here.
Yeah. Wasn't there one in the studio?
Oh yeah.
Shelves? Is it in the storage area? Did it get packed? Did that get packed up?
I bubble wrapped it.
Oh wow. Okay. I was gonna say. I figured the other option was that perhaps you let it fuel you in your efforts to get that studio packed up.
Oh no, I drank a 40 that I found instead.
Okay.
Oh no.
It was one of the ones Ben and I bought.
Oh, okay. All right. Because when we got bought, I remember Dan Mahora came over and put a 40 on my desk and said, "This has been sitting on my desk for a couple of years. I don't know where it came from, but now you seem like you should probably have this." I was worried it was that 40. That's a decade plus.
When I went in to get my stuff 3 months ago or whatever it was, like there was a bottle of Delirium Tremens that had been on my desk for like 4 or 5 years or something. I took it home and refrigerated it and drank it.
Nice.
It was a little weird. Pretty old beer. That's it for emails. Bombcast@giantbomb.com is the address. Thanks to everyone who wrote in. Thanks to all assembled here for being here. Danny, thank you again for showing up. Always
Danny, where can we get more Danny on the internet? Where's the internet home for Danny O'Dwyer?
Time to plug. Into Google Images, find my face, and then go to the URL that is attached to it, and it may be somewhere. Just go to No Clip on YouTube. If you want to watch a whole series about a supergiant game and you've already finished building the Bastion, then go check out No Clip series on Hades.
That's right. It's real kind of rags to riches story from first game to like Universal Game of the Year winner.
Yeah, it didn't make the final cut of the episode 6. We'll probably have we'll have more scenes of stuff further down the line in some forum. But I did talk to Jen. She was the last person I interviewed. And it was the only person I'd interviewed after you guys had announced your Game of the Year. So she said it was like getting a pat on the back from your big brother, saying you guys give the game of the year. She was like more proud of that than maybe any of the other ones. So yeah, it was.
And then they got nominated for like a zillion AIAS awards, like the DICE
wild
stuff. Like they got, I
think they were like 45, 46 Game of the Year awards and counting. Like,
wow,
totally nuts. Yeah, what
Jeez,
a bizarre ending to the whole thing. Like the game's really good, but I don't. Like,
totally.
I think it took them and us sort of by proxy, by surprise, just quite how, how people. If it's the right game at the right time is how Amir said it, and I don't think
because they can't. I mean, they still can't be more than 15 people or something like
20.
that. 20. Okay.
I think they obviously have people who help in other respects, but the core team is like 20. Yeah.
Okay,
it's ridiculous. Yeah,
that's
20
that's wild.
Very talented individuals.
Yes.
The amount of institutional knowledge
totally
in that room is something else
for sure,
and a lovely bunch of folks too.
Yes, totally. Noclip.video, I believe, is the address if you would like to
check. Yeah, just go to YouTube.
I don't know when we as a society decided that we were just okay with 4 and 5 letter top level domains, but .video is we're just doing it now, I guess. I don't know.
Absolutely.
That ship sailed.
Noclip.plumbing.
God, does that exist?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, okay. I gotta go do some stuff. All right. We're gonna end this podcast. Thanks everybody for listening to the Giant Bombcast. Be back with another one of these next week. We'll see you then.